Okay, we can start. So, dear speakers, dear guests, dear participants, good morning to everybody. On behalf of the Lombardy region, I'm very glad to welcome all of you and open this meeting, which will be held inside the GPP4Growth project. The full name of the project is Green Public Procurement for Eco-Innovation, Resource Efficiency, and Green Growth. It's a very challenging European project in the Interreg funding scheme, which is being developed by 9 partners belonging to 9 European countries and led by the Greek colleagues, in particular by the University of Patras and the corresponding institution of the Western Greece, if I'm not mistaken. My name is Antonio Ballerindenti. I will be chairing this meeting, and my role is the chairman of the scientific committee of the Lombardy Foundation for the Environment, which is a non-profit organization established by the Lombardy region more than 30 years ago, in cooperation with 5 major universities of our region, and whose mission is basically as a non-profit and scientific organization to develop scientific research, to promote the advancement of knowledge, in order to give technical and scientific advice to the policymakers of the Lombardy region in particular, as well as also of other national, regional, and local administrations. So the meeting will be very rich, very intense, so we have to be very careful to the time assigned to each of us, each of you in particular. And the program, as you have seen, is divided into 3 parts, let's say 3 sections. There will be a welcome session for addresses given by the political representatives, followed by a session of short communication delivered by the 9 partners. And after a very short coffee break, we have a second session, which has much more, let's say, extended presentations given by experts on the basic issues of this project. And then there will be the conclusions given by a couple of speakers. So I have to recommend you to stay tightly inside the times assigned to you. And in any case, I'll be warning all the speakers just maybe 1 or 2 minutes before the time expires in order to keep our track inside the scheduled times. So the first speaker is, I'm very honored to give the floor to Mr. Raffaele Cattaneo, who is the Minister for Environment and Climate. And I like to stress also the word climate besides environment, because it's the first name like this we have in Italy, and Minister Cattaneo is a minister for our regional administrations, and he is deeply involved into the supervision of all the political decisions, of course, of our administration, and in particular, I know is very fond to follow all European projects being developed by the regional administration. Please, floor is given to Mr. Cattaneo. Please.
Thank you, Professor Ballerindenti. Welcome all of you. My warmer virtual welcome to Lombardy. Special welcome to all the political representatives of other regions in this very important meeting. talking about green public procurement and its key role for growth. This is the first aspect I would focus. Our common project is titled GPP4Growth, and growth has been the perspective we have to look for. Because especially in the last years, our region, Lombardy region, is firmly running a pathway towards sustainable development and energy transition. And we are realizing that we must have a perspective of development, a perspective of a sustainable development, not degrowth. So it seems to me that the political key of our seminar today should be a perspective toward the growth. And this is the first idea I would share with you. I have just two brief ideas and experiences to share with you. The first is related to GPP in Italy, the second to GPP in Lombardy, and then a brief conclusion. So GPP in Italy. In Italy, the green public procurement has a huge potential to steer and boost green strategies and sustainable changes. And let me share with you a few figures can clearly show you why. The overall average value of public tenders in Italy is over 170 billion euros a year, 170 billion euros a year, corresponding to about 11% of national GDP. The public administration is therefore the largest consumer in our country, and with GPP, it can become the main player of sustainable development. It depends, in my opinion, for four main reasons. The first, nobody could influence the market as public administration. Influencing market, companies, and product and services, boosting the diffusion of technical innovation and in particular the achievement of environment improvement objectives. Nobody can do it like public administration. Second, fostering the integration of environmental consideration into other policies. Sustainability is not just an environmental issue. It must take place in transport, energy, industrial policies, and so on. Third, fostering through its example an increased environmental awareness of consumers. In my opinion, the most important political strategy that our regions could implement is awareness in society, awareness in the families, in the citizens, in the companies, awareness about the importance of sustainability. And the last reason, through its purchases, public administration could allow sustainable initiatives to scale up and stay on the market autonomously. By using their purchasing power to choose goods, services, and works with a reduced environmental impact, public administration, in brief, can make an important contribution to sustainability objectives at local, regional, national, and international level. GPP is an important driver for innovation, giving industry real incentives to develop more sustainable products and services, particularly in sectors where public administration are among the largest buyers on the market. For instance, in the construction sector, health, transport. These are the sectors where GPP could drive better and more speed the market towards sustainable objectives. The GPP can also help public administration to save, especially when considering the cost of the entire life cycle in a perspective of life cycle assessment. And in my opinion, we must introduce this perspective life cycle assessment in our purchase activities, particularly in sectors in sectors where public administration is a large contractor. And a procurement contract
not just to purchase price, buying energy efficient products or products which save water resources, for example, can significantly reduce the cost of bills. Reducing hazardous substances in products can limit disposal cost, and so on. So a life cycle assessment allows us to include all that externalities. Public administration applying green procurement are better equipped to address emerging environmental challenges, such as reducing greenhouse gas emissions or moving to a more circular economy. Implementing the GPP does not only mean purchasing sustainable products, it also means respecting specific criteria aiming at reducing the environmental impacts of the purchases and tenders and verifying their effectiveness during the execution of the contract from a life cycle perspective. This further approach allows to reduce the use of natural resources, the waste produced, the polluting emissions, and in general, the dangers and risks for the environment associated with a product or service. Reduction of impacts must therefore take place both upstream of use, for instance, in the production and distribution cycle, in the use phase, and finally, in the end of life phase, for instance, final disposal or even better reuse. This is the reason why since 2008, 13 years ago, our country, Italy, has an action plan on GPP and has been working on minimum environmental criteria for several kinds of goods and services. To fully implement this innovative approach, it is necessary to invest in training for contracting authorities and increase the ability of companies to offer environmentally sustainable products and services. So in our experience, after 13 years, introducing GPP and minimum environmental criteria is very important, but it's not enough. We need to accompany it with a lot of training and awareness in public authorities. Second, GPP in Lombardy, in our region. Lombardy region, GPP also has a huge potential. Our region has more than 3,000 procuring entities, precisely 3,125, which award about 6.5 billion euros per year. So the regional commitment as a contracting authority already started thanks to the daily work of the contract office, an area company, a specific company, regional company, totally owned by the region, dedicated to purchase activity, so a regional single purchasing center, which have been already operating by applying environmental criteria to procurement procedures. Our commitment is also acting in other activities, for instance, the participation in this project, GPP4Growth project, an Interreg project, which is bringing us together here today. Due to this project, last year we produced the regional action plan on GPP, designed thanks to the collaboration of our stakeholders. The action plan, approved last May 2020, in its first release, defined a roadmap towards sustainable consumption for the regional institution itself and for the organization of the regional ecosystem. We are now working to improve the first version, this first version, in order to make our action plan for GPP a reference document which is going to steer and support the GPP in the whole regional context. You are going to receive further information in further dedicated presentation during this meeting. We still have a lot of work to do, of course. However, I would like to emphasize here the key role of the regional institution in developing capacity building and support actions for the procuring entities. In this regards, the first important step taken is the Memorandum of Understanding signed by the Minister for Environment and the Italian Conference of the Regions, aiming at designing and developing training cycles on minimum environmental criteria and action to support their enforcement throughout the country. The training and support requirements should be evaluated at the regional local level. Therefore, the collaboration among regions and all the procuring entities involved is pivotal in order to identify an effective and successful pathway, shared and capable to address the local needs. Another important point I would like to stress here is the importance of the discussion and of sharing ideas among all the players involved. Why? Because the dialogue with business is fundamental as well. The dialogue is essential since this change, this work has to be performed with a bottom-up approach. I always underline this aspect. We don't think that a law or a decree or an institutional decision are enough to support sustainability. We need to involve our civil society, our companies, our citizens. We need a bottom-up approach because without this approach, we cannot reach the goals of sustainability. So this is the reason why we start a collaboration with Union Camere Lombardia, the Association of Lombardy Chamber of Commerce, to support GPP in the context of the program agreement for competitiveness. And as I said before, in the Italian legislation, a crucial role for supporting GPP is played by the identification of minimum environmental criteria. The criteria are defined by the central government. They must be used by the contracting authorities in public tenders. They set minimum sectorial sustainability requirements to make public purchasing greener. But we have to share initiatives, reflections, activities to agree about this minimum criteria. And my region is taking active part in the definition of these criteria, in particular working to make them a tool for supporting circular economy. We are doing in this regard specific action in the working group dedicated to the building sector and to the infrastructure sector to set the minimum requirement of recycling materials, for example, at a higher level in the pertinent products in order this can be stronger level for boosting circular economy. The GPP works to guide the market towards producing green products and services. GPP meets the growing demand of consumers to be able to choose their purchases responsibly and in a virtuous cycle allows for greater dissemination of information and knowledge regarding the sustainability of consumption. Given its numerous environmental, economic, and social implications, I consider the GPP a keystone for the sustainable development strategy that the Lombardy region has undertaken to adopt during this legislature as envisaged in the Regional Development Plan. So, arriving to a brief conclusion, in the end, these are the reasons why I'm proud to start the work of this meeting and to wish you an effective and fruitful experience today, starting with the strong conviction that our role as public administration, and particularly as a region, could lead a path toward sustainable development and should use GPP as an important tool in this path. The public administration should not act as a single subject, but should share the criteria, the environmental criteria with the stakeholders, the market stakeholders in a bottom-up approach, and we must act as examples, good examples, best practices to show all of our citizens that a greener path toward sustainability is not just an idea, that is concrete, possible. And this is the reason why I strongly support the introduction of GPP and the larger use of it in my region, in my nation, and I hope all around Europe. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you very much to the Minister of Lombardy region, Mr. Cattaneo. We are grateful because to him because he gave us 4, let's say, sound reasons why this project is so relevant, and he also showed how this project can be framed into a more general sustainable development pathway toward a green and circular economy. And this is the right frame in which this project should be considered. Thank you again, and now I give the floor, and I'm very delighted to give the floor to the other political representative of this morning, and Mr. Fakion Tsaimis. He is Deputy Governor of Entrepreneurship, Research and Innovation of Western Greece region. So the region who is, besides the University of Patras, the lead partner of this project. And so please, Mr. Tsaimis, the floor is yours.
Mr. Mayor, Your Excellency, dear professors, dear friends from all over the project partners, I'm very happy to be today here with you, although from this awkward way, and I really hope that next time we will have the opportunity to see each other by person. When I first came across this project, it was October 2019. The reason that we were introduced to the project publicly, the today rector, Mr. Bouras, and his team and his colleagues that introduced this project to the region of Western Greece, because I believe it's a very important project. We were not initial partners. Went through the details and the deliverables and the obligations that we have, and we believe that it's important for our region to be part of this. The reason is not only because it serves environmental causes and it gives criteria and templates for the companies and how they were able to reduce the environmental impact, but it also reaches a very important problem and very important procedures in the public sector, and especially the regions and the municipalities that every day they issue tenders, public procurements and tenders about a series of materials, services, and mainly construction projects, but also smaller projects. So it is important, as the minister said before, to give a good example of how we see circular economy and environmental protection. So we signed an MOU that we are following, and we will be able to show you in detail by Mrs. Diamantopoulou, who is representing the region at afterwards, and she will tell you in detail what exactly the steps and the obligations we've been doing all this time. I will be very quick. I will try not to spend much time, but I will say three basic things that we have obligation to do. The first one is to use and try to implement green criteria or templates, let's say, templates for public contracts. This is very important for us. It is not a very easy thing because it's a very heated discussion every time we take out a procurement, a tender. There is a lot of discussion between the stakeholders, the companies that they would like to bid, the local, the Greek legislation system, and of course the European directives. So we have to be very careful that all these criteria and all these templates do meet all this legislation. But we are very keen on implementing them, and we will start very soon to do so. The second thing is that we have been committed to replace and introduce, actually, to introduce solar panels with photovoltaic systems in the local municipalities. We have 17 municipalities in the region of Western Greece. Our region extends from the north to the southern part of the Peloponnese. So we're a quite geographically large region, and we have many municipalities. So we believe that what the region will do is will give the guidelines also for the local municipalities. So that's very, very important. And the third obligation we have was to replace the lights in the peripheral roads with LED systems, LED lights and systems. We've already advanced a lot on that, and we're in the process of opening a tender on that specific item. I read and we have also signed that part of that commitment is to increase the companies that use these templates, these criteria, by 7%. Because the important thing is not only to us, the public administration, to use it, but also the private sector. So, and I believe we will be able to reach that and actually do much better than that. But the important thing I would like to add is that this should not be seen like a burden. This should not be seen like a burden, like an obstacle, like a cost. This should be seen like an opportunity, not only to help the environment, let's say, and help ourselves, of course, but an opportunity for business, because I believe in this way you will be able to show the guidelines for a lot of companies to change the way they produce products, or the way they market their products, or the way they use their internal systems, and try to give them an advantage towards the competition. So we want to see that like a business opportunity and not like a burden. There is two main, because most of you are specialized professors. The first thing is the climate change that we're facing, and it's a big problem universally. But the second thing that we also see, besides the climate change, is the human intervention in many areas that has destroyed, unfortunately, the last decades, the environment. So we have to work towards a reverse engineering in many ways. And we try to do a reverse engineering in order to bring back the previous situation in many areas of Western Greece, in order to bring the situation that initially was according the environment. This is a very, very difficult job. This is a very expensive work. It takes a lot of studies, a lot of human effort, but it does take a lot of cost. Thankfully, we have the resources, which is the European projects, all of the possible European funds that we may use, and they are a lot. But we need to be very careful how we will be able to spend this money. We are now in the process of developing the 5-year plan of the region for the following years. And this plan is developed with lots of dialogue, not only with the people within the region, but also with the municipalities, with the chambers of commerce, with companies, with the citizens. We have opened the dialogue, and we are in the end of this dialogue the following weeks. So we will be able to build up a 5-year plan that will meet a lot of environmental problems that we have. Finally, I would like to thank our department that worked. I would like to say that we did not have financial input in this project. We did not receive from the project any financial input. And I would like to thank the people who worked from the region, the department who worked in the region in order to make all this work happen. And sometimes they have to work after their working hours. I know that they work hard, and I would like to publicly thank them for that. Concerning the photovoltaic system, we have committed an amount of 3 million euros, and for the LED lights, 1 million euros, but I'm afraid that this amount was the initial, and we will actually go much higher on this commitment. I'm very happy to follow the results, and I will read carefully the results of today's conference. We have a very close link with the University of Patras, but with all the partners of the project, and we wait in anticipation to see what the conclusions will be of today's event. Thank you very much, and I hope we have a very fruitful event today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zaimis, for your valuable contribution, and especially for providing us with interesting examples of the connection of GPP policies at regional level with other environmental problems like climate change, renewable energy resources, environmental pollution, and this is very important because shows some way the value added of the GPP policies into the more general environmental policies. And so it has been also useful for us to know about your memorandum of understanding being implemented by your region. So thanks again. And now I'm going to give the floor for the introduction to the contents, the main, most relevant topics of this project to the lead partner, the scientific partner of the project, in particular to Mr. Vagelis Mikos. Dr. Mikos is a researcher at the University of Patras and is a member of the leading team of this project. So you have also 10 minutes for your presentation. Please, Dr. Mikos, floor is yours.
Good morning from me. Good morning to everybody. I will share my screen for the presentation. I hope that you see my screen.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay,
full
perfect.
screen. Go ahead.
Okay, as already stated, I am Evangelos Mikos. I am a researcher at the University of Patras and a team member of the GPP4Growth project. I will be making a brief introduction to the project. And to start with, on green public procurement, we can say that GPP is the process by which the public sector procures products, services, and jobs using green criteria when evaluating tenders. Public procurement services can use environmental criteria in the award of tenders and in the evaluation of tenders, and the basic principles of transparency, equal treatment, and non-discrimination must be met at all times. GPP represents 14% of Europe's gross domestic product. It is a major driver for innovation, providing industry with incentives for green products and services. The main areas of application are construction sites, the healthcare section, and vehicles, but also we could think of computers, electronics, foods, lighting, sanitary, heat, and power. Why should someone use GPP? Using GPP, procurement services can reduce the energy and ecological footprint, reduce the environmental impact, contribute to the sustainable use of natural resources, promote innovation and competitiveness, act as an example for the private sector, and save public resources by taking into account life cycle costs. One question someone could ask is, why aren't all regions doing this already? And the reasons are the following. The lack of legal clarity and expertise in applying GPP criteria, the lack of resources, the limited aware of benefits and lack of political support for GPP, the different procedures across the EU, making it difficult for bidders, and the limited knowledge on the potential of green products in the market. So our project, the GPP4Growth project, includes 9 partners from 9 countries. Here we can see we have partners from Greece, from Italy, from Poland, Belgium, Spain, Latvia, Bulgaria, Ireland, and Malta. And GPP4Growth aspires to help us following by improving the resource efficiency policies in partner territories by incorporating GPP, exchanging practices and experiences on the benefits for implementing GPP in order to later promote green growth, and support public administrations and businesses to adopt life cycle cost approaches and improve the management of resources and waste. Regarding the administrations, GPP4Growth helps us following through interregional workshops, for example, on different GPP approaches, eco-labels and GPP practices and monitoring green contracts, by experience visits on GPP processes and results, through a comparative analysis report on GPP in the consortium countries, and through a life cycle costing methodology and resources. Regarding policymaking, the GPP4Growth helps as follows: through a needs analysis for the GPP4Growth regions, through policy recommendations report for the GPP4Growth regions, through 14 policy briefs based on the lessons learned, 9 action plans to improve the 9 policy instruments addressed, and 1 regions summit on GPP to allow EU-level learning and exchange of experiences. Regarding regional actors, based on the report on factors that influence businesses on the key GPP4Growth sectors to participate in green tenders and contracts, through a good practice guide on successful GPP cases, 9 stakeholder groups and 14 meetings with stakeholder groups. The expected changes throughout the GPP4Growth project are the following. We expect over 7% increase in the number of businesses in partner regions that integrate environmental factors and costs when they are producing goods, supplies, and services, an increased capacity of 200 staff of public administrations to implement resource efficiency policies through GPP, more than 10 million euros of investments to promote new green products and services, and increased knowledge awareness for over 1,000 stakeholders on the influence of GPP in the adoption of sustainable consumption and production patterned by businesses. The project work plan. We have 2 phases. The project is split in 2 phases. The first phase started in January 2017 and ended in December 2019. And now we're in the second phase, which started on January 2020 and is going to end on December 2021. Some pictures from our project team throughout the meetings. And this concludes my presentation. So I don't know if there are any questions from someone.
I think the questions could be delivered by chat, and maybe we have time during the meeting to reply the questions by chat, because we are very, tight in our timeline. And
Okay, sure, yes.
Okay, so thank you very much, because in your presentation you have you've given to us not only the, let's say, main features and figures of the GPP4Growth project, but also you correctly stressed what are the main barriers and the main success factors for our project looking at the future. And this should be strictly and carefully considered also in the next discussion. So we are 10 minutes late in our schedule, so we have to accelerate our pace. Now we are entering into the first session of this morning. The session is named Political Commitment and the Achieved Results in GPP Approach in Implementation. And we have 9 speakers. We have 1 hour and a half, but I'll suggest to keep possibly the presentations inside 7-8 minutes. So in order to recover the 10 minutes late we have accumulated so far. So the first speaker will be Mr. Jason Martinez, who is the policy officer of our.
Good morning.
Project. He has a crucial role because he's the supervisor and our master, control master for our project of the JS of the Interior Europe. Please, Mr. Martinez, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Antonio. A warm welcome from my side to all the partners and participants in this high-level final event of the GPP4Growth project. Myself, I've not been monitoring the project since the beginning. It has been my colleague, Ailis, who is now on maternity leave. But for me, it has been a pleasure to follow the project in the last months and to represent the Interreg Europe program today. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to make a short, let me see if I can.
Okay.
Okay, I think it's good now.
Perfect. It's full screen. Go ahead.
So I'm a coordinator of projects here in the program, and I would like to show you very briefly where we are in the Interreg Europe program and what is going to happen in the next months and in the future program for which we are currently discussing the characteristics. So right now, we have a program with 322 million ERDF funding. We have open 4 calls. GPP4Growth is part of the second call. There are a family of 258 projects with more than 2,000 partner organizations all over Europe. Representing the 25 partner states of the European Union plus Norway and Switzerland. And we are covering 88% of the NUTS2 regions. So we have almost partners from every region in Europe. And with 25% of managing authorities involved in our cooperation projects. This is a little bit the outputs achieved, the latest update on outputs that have been achieved as of 27th of May, so a few days ago. Our projects have identified almost 3,800 good practices all over Europe, out of which 2,300 are part of the policy learning platform good practice database. You know that Interreg Europe is about capacity building. For us, the 2 main outputs that we are monitoring are the staff with increased capacity and the action plans, where all the lessons learned from phase 1 are implemented then in phase 2. For this, we have already overachieved the targets set in our cooperation program with 184 projects that have finished already phase 1. And we are really happy with the effort that the projects are doing in terms of achieving outputs and results. At the moment, we have already achieved more than 1 billion euros mobilized thanks to the cooperation, with policy improvements coming from 161 projects and almost 600 policy changes approved. This represents a leverage effect of every euro invested in the program helps to mobilize 5 euros in the participating regions, which is quite an impressive results. And this is thanks to the partner organizations like the ones involved in GPP4Growth. But we do not only have the projects, we also have the policy learning platform with all the activities that they do to capitalize on the project results, to involve other managing authorities and public organizations, regional and local authorities that are not part of the projects, with a community of peers, expert policy support, our good practice database and the knowledge hub, and where you as a region or as a partner organization can apply to the different services that the PLP is providing. And then, of course, COVID-19 that has really heavily impacted a program like ours, which is about exchanging experience all throughout Europe. I think that GPP4Growth is a good example with a really wide coverage, geographical coverage with partners coming from all over Europe. COVID-19 has made that we were not able to travel to meet the regions, to go see the experiences in real life. But we are also very happy with the amazing effort that the partner organizations have been doing to try to move all the physical activities online, to try to keep the project spirit alive, to keep the exchange of experience active. And we are really thankful that the partners, that you have been doing this great effort. We have launched different COVID-19 measures. Maybe the most important for you has been the 5th call for additional activities. And I'm happy to confirm that last week the monitoring committee approved the application form submitted by GPP4Growth. So congratulations for the excellent work. This means that the GPP4Growth project will have an additional year to continue cooperation. So the original end date foreseen by the end of 2021 will be extended, and this will allow you to keep the cooperation working, and hopefully in a few months to be able to travel again and meet with your partners face to face. That I think that is something that we are all much looking forward to. So congratulations, you will receive very soon the notification letter, and I have to thank the lead partner, the University of Patras, who has been very reactive when dealing with the application form, and this has ended up with an approval by the monitoring committee. So about the topic, we have 31 projects working on resource efficiency. Only 3 are dealing with green public procurement, GPP4Growth, GPP Stream. We have another project working on circular procurement. So it's not a topic that is very, let's say, widespread in our projects, but at least we have 3 projects working with public procurement and green criteria. We also are very thankful for the GPP4Growth contribution to the program. There are more than 20 good practices in the policy learning platform database that come from you, from the partners organization in the project, with more than 150 people that has increased their capacity thanks to the exchange of experience between the partners. Already impressive results with 4 policy instruments improved thanks to the cooperation. Probably more improvements are expected until the end of the year, and hopefully with the additional year of cooperation. And at the moment, there are 60,000 euros of funds mobilized, but as it was said previously this morning, probably more funding will be mobilized thanks to the GPP4Growth project. And now a little bit about the future. Also last week, the programming committee, which started to work on the future program back in December 2019, finally has approved the cooperation program. Now, after the summer, it will be sent to the European Commission for approval, and we hopefully expect to open the first call of the future program in the first semester of 2022. So we are quite happy that we already have a program and that we will allow to the different organizations in Europe to continue the exchange of experience. What will be the main features of the new program? What we like to say is that there is no revolution but evolution. We will still have a pan-European program with a similar overall objective. We will continue to promote cooperation to improve the policies addressed in the regions. And the main focus will be still capacity building. We will continue to finance the same type of exchange of experience activity that the program is currently financing now. There is an evolution in the sense that there is kind of a flexibilization in terms of structural funds. Now the focus on structural funds will be lightened. At the moment, there was this requirement of 50% of the policy instruments to be operational programs. This will not be the case anymore. I think that at the moment, the discussion is that there will be at least one policy instrument that there will be an operational program, but the rest we will give the possibility to regions to decide which is the local or regional instrument that they would like to improve. We are also offering the possibility to request pilot actions from day one, from the application stage of the project. And now in terms of the priority of the program, the partner states have decided to focus on the Interreg specific objective, better cooperation governance. We think that this reflects better the spirit of the program, capacity building, exchange of experience. But from a thematic point of view, it will give us the flexibility to open up the topics that will be financed by the program. Even though still 80% of the funding will go to smart and green growth. But it will open the possibility to finance other type of topics such climate change, which was not possible in the current program, employment, social issues, so giving more flexibility to the participant organizations. And that's it from my side. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. I will follow the conference to see in detail what every partner has to say. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jason. And Ms. Martinez has been giving all the main features of the effort spent by the European Union. We are, of course, very grateful for what the European Union has been doing in the last planning term to support projects aimed at the cooperation and cohesion between European regions, and we are looking to the next policy term with hope to be able to continue to give also contribution by our part to the growth and the sustainable development of the European Union, of course. So now let's come to the Greece region again, to the Western Greece region, and I give the floor to Ms. Maria Diamantopoulou. I hope to pronounce correctly your name.
That's fine, that's fine.
I've been studying ancient Greek during the gymnasium, but ancient Greek is different, a bit different from the modern Greek, of course. Mm-hmm. And so Maria is head of the procurement department of the Western Greece region. And please, you have the floor. And I recommend you and all of the participants to stay inside maybe 7-8 minutes, please.
Okay. I will share my screen now. Can you see now my screen?
Not yet.
No?
Not yet. No.
Just give me a minute.
You should leave your presentation into the screen of your computer.
It's okay now?
No, we can't.
You can't see it.
Do you have your presentation on your desktop? Okay,
yes,
now
yes.
It's coming.
Okay.
Okay,
let's give it some time. It's okay now?
Perfect.
Okay. Hello, my name is Maria Diamantopoulou. I'm head of the procurement department in Region Western Greece. After its approval by the Interreg Europe Management Authority, the action plan created from University of Patras for the region of Western Greece was sent to the region and began monitoring its implementation in January 2020. Unfortunately, although we are at the end of the program, the above action plan has not been satisfactorily implemented, and a number of reasons justify this delay. First of all, the special conditions created due to COVID-19 have led to a shift to products and services related to protection from COVID-19, such as disinfection services and antiseptic products. But perhaps the most important of the reasons is the lack of staff in the procurement department. In the last year, 3 people have been transferred to other departments of the region without any of them to be replaced. Despite of all these problems, in more details, the 3 actions of the action plan created for region of Western Greece are the following. The first action is creation of templates with predefined green criteria for a specific range of products, such as the selected products are cleaning products. The second action is installation of photovoltaic systems in public buildings. And the third action is changing public lighting with LED lamps. In more details, each action, the first action, as we said, is the creation of templates with predefined green criteria for a specific range of products. The creation and use of templates will help in future competitions for product categories that will include default green criteria and will be a cost-effective tool in the hands of the region. Creating binding templates and the procurement department is expected to be completed by the end of July 2021, while for the first calls for bids and evaluation of results will estimate that are expected to be completed by the end of 2021. If all the above goes according to plan, we consider extending the use of standards to other categories, such as computers and catering services. The second action is installation of photovoltaic systems in public buildings. The idea behind the action was born after the publication of 2 similar best practices by the Polish partner using photovoltaic panels in public kindergartens. Initially, there will be an assessment of the current situation in the integration of photovoltaic technology in public building in the region of Western Greece, which is expected to be completed by July 2021. Immediately afterwards, the Department of Technical Services will prepare the report for the cost estimation, the appropriate technologies and annual savings, and the payback time, a process that we estimate to be completed by the end of October 2021. Subsequently, tender supplies and their installation are expected to be completed by the end of 2021. The third action is it's the action that is more completed. It's changing public lighting with LED lamps. The action came up from the presentation of a similar best practice during our visit to Ireland and Latvia, which outlined the long-term benefits such as an approach, annual savings and reduced ecological footprint, which combines environmentally friendly results with economic benefits. The ultimate goal of this action is to install green light bulbs in the region of Western Greece, including local roads and municipalities. A study has already been carried out to record and capture the street lighting network of the region of Western Greece. It took us almost 1 year to have this study. The technical service department have already prepared the respective report on cost estimation, appropriate technologies, the annual savings, the repayment period, and the tender procurement is expected to be published in the beginning of July 2021. The tender procurement is entitled Energy Saving and Energy Upgrade of the Electric Lighting Network of the region of Western Greece. The estimated cost is 16 million euros and is being financed by public investment program. The procurement includes the supply and installation of equipment for the replacement of 12,455 pieces of luminaries, as well as the supply of the sub-site equipment for the management and the control of street lighting on the roads of region of Western Greece, the provision of operation and the maintenance services of the lighting system of the roads of region of Western Greece, and the maintenance and the repair of electric light networks for the smooth operation of the energy upgrade. We are expecting to have this tender in the beginning of 2020 of July, and we are ready to evaluate the results after its implementation. That's all for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria, because you have shown how much the GPP policies are and have to be included into the perspective of the Green Deal and the development of the more advanced environmental policies of the European Union. Now the floor is given to the Bulgaria, another of the states involved into this project, and in particular to Georgi Simirnov, a director of the Investment and European Project Directorate of the municipality of Stara Zagora. Okay, Georgi, floor is yours.
Dear political leaders, dear stakeholders, dear representatives of the local authorities and public decision makers, I have the pleasure to extend a few words about the experience of Regional Economic Development Agency of Stara Zagora in Bulgaria about the public procurement, especially the experience acquired within the framework of the GPP4Growth project funded under the Indirect Europe program. Over the years, it was one of the best projects, and the experience of the city of Stara Zagora was taken into account within this project.
Okay, I'm not sure if the representative of Bulgaria is present.
Experienced a lot of good practices in the city of Stara Zagora over the years.
Can you hear me? Yes, now.
Through a large number of projects that we have put in place in our city. I will give a few examples about the public procurement, the green public procurement that we are talking about, and a few projects that have been put in place in our city. I will start with a swimming pool. This was one of the projects that was a showcase demonstrated to our partners within this GPP4Growth project. It was a very good experience of heating thermal system of heating the water needed for the swimming pool. It was a good experience because it was an energy efficiency measures to which we have substantially reduced the consumption of energy, almost close to zero.
We are waiting for the video
respectively,
of the
low energy consumption means low
Bulgaria.
emissions. One good example. Another good example in our city would be the public lighting. Over many years, the city of Stara Zagora has invested massively local funds, national funds, including European funds, in order to renovate the public lighting. I am particularly proud of a project that we have recently put in place, namely the renovation of a very nice park called Ayasmundo Park or Metropolit Metori Kusev Park. This is an emblematic place for the citizens of Stara Zagora, a park large of about 30 hectares, in which we have wonderful places for walking, for free time, leisure activities, including a zoo and a summer theater for different cultural events. So all these facilities, the summer theater, the zoo, are entirely renovated with energy efficiency measures in order to reduce the energy consumption, and including the lighting of the whole park. So all these projects have been through the green public procurement, and we have accumulated a lot of experience related to the process of putting in place these projects. Another very good example would be the urban transport, the sustainable urban transport of Stara Zagora. The city has made a great step ahead over the last 10 years and we have invested over 60 million euro, mainly EU funding and national funding, of course, for the renovation of the urban transport. We have established a new public traffic management system in order to reduce the bad emissions and to make the public transport more energy efficient, especially with regard to the trolleybuses and the power supply system for the trolleybuses. We have introduced a new e-ticketing system, and we have also a new system for the urban transport buses. The next step in the urban transport will be the purchase of a new fleet of electric buses, which will replace those that we are currently using in Stara Zagora, which are diesel ones. These electric buses will be the next step in the energy efficiency, and of course the green public procurement procedure will be on the basis of this project. It's a project with a budget of about 27 million euro and the purchase of 33 electric buses, which will entirely replace the current fleet of buses. So all these measures are directly related also to one big problem in our city. It is an environmental problem, namely the high concentration over the normal levels of fine dust particles. This is a huge problem, not only for the city of Stara Zagora, but for many cities across Bulgaria. And this problem is mainly due to the high consumption of combustibles, hard combustibles, which produce a lot of fine particles in Bulgaria by the households. This is a huge problem, and now we have a few projects under operational program environment in order to replace some of the heating facilities at home with new ones, which will substantially reduce the emission of fine dust particles. But the urban transport, the local transport, the projects that we have put in place for the urban lighting, all these projects have been related to some extent to the reduction of this fine dust particles and to different even energy efficiency measures that we have undertaken in order to improve the air pollution and the environmental status of the city of Stara Zagora. So these were the experience that we had over the years with a few projects, and projects which have been under the green public procurement, and they will be very fruitful. This experience that we have accumulated over the years will be very fruitful and very consistent for the city of Stara Zagora for the next programming period, especially regarding all the projects and the measures that we are going to put in place in the city, which relates to the Just Transition Fund on one hand, and on the other hand, all the measures and the projects that have been already planned and included in our recovery and resilience plan. So we have our sight now turned to the future. We have all these experience that I have been through already behind us, and I believe that this project, Gpp4Growth, was very fruitful for the agency and for the city of Stara Zagora with regard to the future. Thank you for your attention.
Okay. I hope you can hear me. Okay, I missed part of the presentation of Mr. Georgi Simonov. I'm sorry, but I could listen the last part. Now I'm giving the floor to the Malta representative, Ms. Ruth Debrincat. I have also in the schedule another name, precisely Mr. Christian Sultana. They belong to the Directorate for the Environment and Climate Change, Ministry of the Environment, Climate Change and Planning of Maltese Islands. So the floor is yours.
Good morning. I will share my presentation.
Okay, we can see it. Perfect.
Very good. We will be having an overview of the uptake of green public procurement in the Maltese Islands. As you have already well stated, member states in the European Union are the major public consumers, and thus this great consumption must be addressed in an environmental manner. With the aid of green public procurement, member states are setting an example and thus acting as a driving force whereby the private and public sector can work hand in hand to invest and develop a number of green products and services. In addition, green public procurement can be seen as complementing and encouraging the attainment of a number of environmental goals. Thanks to a number of mandatory and non-mandatory criteria, we in Malta are using GPP as a tool and addressing and trying to attain a number of environmental objectives, such as climate change, water issues, water scarcity, and energy efficiency. We are also using the European Green Deal, whereby the Commission proposes a number of mandatory GPP criteria or targets for the public procurement sector, and these have a number of minimum criteria which will set a common definition of green purchase. We have used these initiatives in a number of our criteria when drafting the second National Action Plan. In Malta, we have started addressing GPP from 2005, whereby from 2005 to 2008, we had the National Reform Program, and we addressed green public procurement for the first time. In 2009, as a government, we decided to have an indicative target of 50%, whereby at least half of all tenders falling under GPP were to be greened. This was addressed in 2012 with the adoption of our first National Action Plan. In 2014, we had the mainstreaming of GPP activities, whereby we decentralized a number of office tasks from the main ministry. And all this could be seen in the Contract Circular 501/2011. In 2018, we published our second National Action Plan for public consultation. However, due to a number of updated criteria, in the coming weeks, we will be publishing the final draft of the second National Action Plan. In the first National Action Plan, we had 18 different product groups, having a mixture of both mandatory and non-mandatory product groups, and we will be seeing the results in the next slides. Targets were incremental, so we do not disturb the market, and we are able to grow hand in hand both the public procurement and the market availability. The first National Action Plan had a wide range of results. However, our main target was to introduce a new environmental consideration to public procurement, and this was achieved with the horizontal target of 50% and the number of sector-specific targets per product group. The overall performance in the last 3 years can be seen in this bar graph, whereby we have achieved the 50% mark and surpassed it. In the last 3 years, we have an average of around 60% of all the tenders falling under the remit of GPP being greened. These are the targets per product group. As you can see, these are the mandatory product groups we currently address in Malta. They have a 100% target. However, due to a number of barriers, this is not always achieved. However, you can see that they are still doing very well and having a high percentage of compliance. These are the non-mandatory product groups in Malta. And as you can see, even though they are non-mandatory, a number of them are doing very well. We still require a bit of work on a number of product groups. However, we can see that they are increasing year after year. As I said earlier, in the transition to going from the first to the second National Action Plan, we decided to decentralize and mainstream the GPP function. This was done in 3 main areas. Firstly, back then, MSDEC, which is today MSCP, the Ministry for the Environment, Climate Change and Planning, led the GPP process across government in close liaison with our Department of Contracts. We mainstreamed the GPP function across the different ministries, whereby a GPP coordinator was introduced in every ministry, and he was responsible of GPP in his particular ministry. We also reactivated the GPP Interministerial Task Force, where twice a year we would meet with all the GPP coordinators and discuss the barriers and other things which have been occurring in the past 6 months. Our second National Action Plan. What's new? It is more ambitious. We have updated our targets to follow what the Commission have introduced. We have new guidelines and 9 further measures that will make our second National Action Plan more ambitious. These are the 6 new criteria we will be introducing in our second National Action Plan, including electrical and electronic equipment used in healthcare, vending machines and hospitality and catering, sanitary tapware, toilets and urinals, road design, construction and maintenance, and office building design, construction and management. What is the target for our second National Action Plan? We have set out targets for 16 product groups and service groups. However, we'll be having a lot more mandatory product groups, whereby out of the 16, only 3 will be non-mandatory, but their targets are still going to be very high. The GPP criteria for street lighting, traffic signals, furniture, and transports have increased in their ambition level. We have also new criteria which have been given at the beginning have relatively low targets so that they can grow with the market and thus not stop the market and have non-compliant bids. We'll also be adjusting the targets throughout the lifespan of the National Action Plan if needed, so that we will also have an ambitious and competitive National Action Plan. These are our mandatory criteria in the second National Action Plan. As you can see, we have increased them from the 5 we are currently using to 13, whereby by the end of 2025, all 13 product groups will be mandatory in Malta. These will be the 3 remaining product groups which will not be mandatory by the end of 2025. However, as you can see, their targets are still very high, with 90% for the first 2 and 70% of compliance for the last one. We will also be doing a number of further actions beyond setting higher targets, giving a mandatory status, and introducing new GPP criteria. We'll be having 9 new initiatives. These have been identified in order to effectively address this new vision. And these are the 9 new initiatives. Firstly, greening procurement instruments, whereby currently we see tenders which exceed the €10,000 target. We will be seeing 10 quotations between the €5,000 and €10,000 targets as well, whereby we will be increasing this pool, whereby more public procurement will be greened. We will be also greening award criteria, where we have chosen a number of product groups to insert their award criteria in the tender procurement, and this will be done when utilizing a best price quality ratio. The pooling of green advisory experts, we have noticed that a number of assistance is required during evaluation of green tenders, and thanks to this initiative, this aid will be offered to a number of different ministries. Greening EU funding, whereby we will be facilitating the EU funding when a tender is greened. Incentivizing local councils. Local councils in Malta require additional help in order to introduce green public procurement technical specifications in their tendering, and we will be aiding them and further facilitating the inclusion of GPP criteria in their tendering procurement process. Training and constant refresher courses. I will be explaining this further on in the next slides, whereby we have now introduced new online training, as well as we will be introducing training for economic operators as well as public officers. Environmental credentials, whereby we will be helping small and medium enterprises to get the required labeling and credentials required for them to be able to bid for green tenders, and thus increasing competition. Post-procurement auditing, whereby we will be having an external audit service to attain and make sure that whatever is listed on the tender document is actually being provided after the award of the tender. And lastly, enhancing the role of the GPP coordinator, whereby thanks to the first one, the greening procurement instrument, the GPP coordinator will have a bigger remit to see, and thus we must enhance his role and have more importance. Going digital, this is very important in the current times. Everyone is using digital equipment more frequently. Everything is going digital, and we have addressed this in a number of ways. Firstly, we will be introducing a new GPP mobile app. This will be both in Maltese and in English, and one will find a number of GPP-related services on this mobile app, such as Get Your Product GPP Certified, GPP training sessions, events, and also a contact us and chat box, whereby an economic operator or a public officer can talk to us in real time.
Excuse me, and we can... Just 1 minute. Excuse me.
Yes, no problem. I can continue.
Please go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you.
I told you just 1 minute left.
Okay, thank you. Yes, we have this mobile app whereby a number of GPP-related services can be used. We have an EPPS enhancement whereby we will be using the national procurement platform, but we will no longer be collecting data post-procurement, but pre-procurement, whereby economic contracting authorities will be asked to answer a number of questions prior to publishing their tender on the online platform. And lastly, the online GPP training. This year alone, we have trained over 200 government officers, and we will be continuing to train along the year. This online training is very, very utilized and much needed, because thanks to this training, we'll be having more compliant bids and more holistic tenders to be greened. This training session also focuses on practical and case-by-case approach for our government officers. Thank you very much, and that was an overview of green public procurement in Malta.
Thank you very much, Christian, for presenting the state of the art of the GPP in the Maltese Islands. Okay, now we move to Spain, in particular to Andalusia region. And the speaker will be Mr. Francisco Jose Gutierrez Rodriguez, Secretary General for Environment, Water and Climate Change. And he will be giving a presentation with the title of Green Public Procurement in Andalusia, Advances for the Future. Please.
Good morning from Andalusia. It's a pleasure for me to greet you in these days and to be able to transfer some reflection from our region in relation to this Internet project and congratulate all the partners for the work done over the years. As you know, public procurement regulations are a key element of national, European and global legal frameworks. From a European Union perspective, the different public procurement directives approved over the years have led us to a harmonized procedure across all member states. The current EU legislation supports public procurement as a strategic tool to help promote and achieve European policy goals and encourages member states to make the most of it. It urges for the integration of innovative procurement principles to achieve an intelligent, ecological and inclusive growth for small and medium enterprises and social economic enterprises, as well as sustainable and efficient solutions when considering the use of resources. Therefore, we understand that public procurement is the new basis to deliver public policies by considering and including environmental criteria. As such, our national law on public procurement embodies these principles. Another positive outcome in a new legal framework from the public procurement system, making it utterly transparent and simplifying related procedures, resulting in a more efficient public expenditure, preventing corruption, and enabling the participation of small and medium enterprises. In our regional context, there are two very specific issues I would like to address concerning green public procurement. One which is rather recent and came into effect in 2019, and another which we are expecting will come into effect soon. They are our regional climate change and circular economy laws. Our law on measures against climate change and for a new energetic model for Andalusia strengthens the liability of public administrations in incorporating environmental criteria in their procurement processes. Among the measures of the innovative Andalusian law, we would like to point out the inclusion of energetic efficiency and sustainability criteria in procurement process, the definition of specific award conditions and implementation requirements that consider environmental impacts of the complete life cycle of each service of product delivered, as well as their potential for waste minimization, reuse, and recycling, or the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions during the process. Another relevant fact in that public power supply procurement must be from certified renewable sources. Other aspects included our criteria that promote proximity and the ecological origin of products and their processes, the inclusion of energy consumption, quantification, and final energy rating of the delivering building or installation in the final economical assessment of the offer presented. Of all the previous written are measures traceable in a legal norm which has the status and force of law. The Andalusia Circular Economy Law foresees regulating crucial issues that directly impact our society and setting the basis of our regional government's current program, a green revolution. This involves an efficient and environmentally friendly economic model that promotes a rational use of resources, extends products' durability, and helps us preserve our natural heritage. With regards to green public procurement, this law will contribute to ecological public procurement by ensuring that public procurement service from our administration will promote reducing consumption, waste generation, and working toward a circular economy. Clearly, this progress in our regional green public procurement regulations has been positively impacted by the experience shared through GPP4Growth, an international comparison opportunity in which Andalusia has benefited not only the added value to our legislative proposals from the following specific items. First, the Andalusian government accounts for a specific guide that details the mandatory clauses for all procurement service, as well as all recommended clauses that can be considered according to each contract-specific conditions. Its purpose is to contribute to promoting and consolidating a sustainable business network, environmentally respectful, and that extends the lifespan of products in order to minimize the negative impacts on our health, reducing energy consumption, minimizing toxic emissions, and depleting natural resources. Just to share a quick example, during 2019, the number of cases awarded in our administration that accounted for environmental clauses reached 1,744, reaching a total sum over 2 billion euros. However, due to the time passed between the draft version of the guide, the approval of relevant and important change in regulations, the new case law of our courts, and the different criteria among the redress bodies for control remedies concerning sustainable public procurement, it is necessary for the contents be reviewed. For these reasons, as a result of the action plan developed by Gpp4Growth project, we have been able to revise and update the above-mentioned guide. To this date, we have a draft version that goes quite into detail. The following step will be having it legally reviewed and submitted to the Social and Environmental Clauses Committee. Another action resulting from our participation in Gpp4Growth has been drafting the framework agreement for the approval of liquid fuel supply and electric energy supply at charging points for the regional administration fleet of vehicles, which began last April 2020 for an estimated amount of 16 million euros. At the same time, within the framework agreement, we outline fuel shipping activities from storage locations to their destinations based on environmental criteria regarding energy efficiency as well as emissions. Along with the draft of the new version of the guide on how to include social and environmental clauses in procurement process, we have worked on improving the classification of the clauses in order to use them as a search criteria in the contractor profiles for our administration. As a result, the clauses not only serve to define procurement process, but also help to improve identifying them for all the potential parties interested, by it either the public or the procurement agents involved. With this in mind, we have designed a search tool in the contractor profile that directly and clearly shows different environmental clauses for procurement processes in our administration. We expect it to be launched and publicly available in the next few weeks. We are quite aware that one of the main issues that made it difficult to implement green public procurement is the general lack of experience or knowledge on how to apply the criteria. For this reason, one of the actions carried out in the project has been the preparation and organization of a training session on the inclusion of environmental clauses across different procurement phases. To this end, we accounted for the participation of the Andalusian Public Administration Institute, entity responsible for the training program of civil servants in Andalusia. This initiative has been included in the training program since 2019. It consists of a 25-hour online horizontal enhancement training session called Green Public Procurement, Environmental Criteria in Public Procurement. Now, within the framework of the Andalusian administration's green budgeting, a new study regarding the identification of good practice in the implementation of sustainable strategies and green budgeting to promote training initiative in Andalusia has been launched, similar to the principle of the Gpp4Growth project concerning the comparative exchange of good practice. As a final example of action carried out in the implementation of the action plan in Andalusia, we have the Green Public Procurement Sensitization campaign through our website and social media that includes a video explaining in detail green public procurement. The goal is to help those responsible of public procurement across the public sector, as well as the private sector and the public in general, understand the environmental benefits of green public procurement, not only for the environment itself, but also our health and quality of life. The result can be viewed in following video, available in Spanish and in English by the link we are sharing with you through the project's website. With this, and on behalf of the whole project team and our regional minister, I would like to deeply thank everyone's work and dedication in this project. From Andalusia, we send you our kindest and warmest wishes, hoping that our modest participation and contribution has helped making Europe greener and more sustainable. Thank you. Our regional minister, I would like to deeply thank everyone's work and dedication in this project. From Andalusia, we send you our kindest and warmest wishes, hoping that our modest participation and contribution has helped making Europe greener and more sustainable. Thank you.
We are very grateful for this contribution by the Spanish colleagues, Andalusia. And now we go to situation in Poland, and the presentation is entitled GPP in Poland, Legal Provisions, its Uptake and GPP-related Activities, and the floor is given to Mr. Marcin Skowron. Very grateful for this contribution by...
Hello, everyone. Thank you for giving me the floor and the opportunity to present the legal status as regards to GPP. I was invited to participate in today's event by the Łódzkie region. I work for the Public Procurement Office, which is a central government organization, and we're responsible for the GPP delivery, GPP presentation among the contracting authorities and entities in Poland. Why is it so important to speak about the GPP? There is an ancient proverb that we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, but we borrow it from our children. So that's why it's so important to think about the environment ahead. And when spending public funds, that's why it's so vital to use the public procurement. And as regards the legal status, the legal background is that all the environmental aspects were incorporated into the public procurement law. We've got a new public procurement law. The act was adopted in 2019, but it actually entered in force on the 1st of January this year. And it entails various possibilities of including environmental aspects. Well, in general, it duplicates the provisions that were introduced earlier to the previous public procurement law. And what's important in terms of environmental aspects, their use is in general voluntary. That's why it's so important to inform the contracting authorities and entities about the possibilities of including environmental aspects into their tendering process. Okay, which aspect at which stages can be implemented when purchasing? So these aspects can be implemented at the stage of analysis of needs of the contracting authority, then of course descriptions of the subject matter of contract, which is very crucial part of the whole tendering process. Then exclusion grounds, qualitative selection criteria in terms of technical and professional ability, contract award criteria, and contract performance requirements. Just two things about the analysis of needs of the contracting authorities. So the contracting authorities, in case of classical procurement, are of a value above the EU thresholds, are obliged to examine the possibilities of meeting the identified needs with the use of their own resources. They are obliged to do the market to check the market intelligence in terms of the availability of alternative means of meeting their needs. And also they are obliged to consider whether it's possible to include some environmental or innovative aspects into their tendering process. Yes, the public procurement office, as I've already mentioned, popularizes among the participants of the whole public procurement market the information on the legal possibilities of considering the environmental aspects in their tendering process. So we started with the GPP in 2007, and so far we have developed 4 national action plans on GPP or SPP. I mean, SPP understood as sustainable public procurement, where GPP is part of it. And currently, as our 4th national action plan on SPP expired last year, we are elaborating together with other national ministries the national purchasing policy. This document is targeted at the government administration units, and GPP will be an essential part of this document. We also, as the office, monitor the GPP uptake among the contracting authorities. As regards our activities, we do conduct training events and organize conferences. We prepare various publications and information materials, which we then publish on our GPP sub page at the PPO website. How is our web page structure? So of course, we provide the information on the legal provisions, documents, strategic documents, as for instance, the National Action Plan. We provide the case law, not only the EU one, but also the national case law. These are the rulings of the National Appeal Chamber. We do provide also the Polish translation of the EU GPP criteria, publications, and we also have useful information. And the useful information is structured based on sectors it refers to. So we've got the information, specific information on buildings, on transport, on food and catering, cleaning services, energy efficiency, labeling, and LCC as well. Our most recent deliverable that we presented, it was the 15th GPP conference that we held in January. And this year's conference was on electromobility. We also organized 3 online training events. We developed a guidebook on the use of environmental solutions for individual components of a building, which can be very useful in procurement for works. We also developed an analysis of a construction investment in terms of the possibilities of reducing the negative impact on the environment. We also developed an guidebook on the application of the cost criterions based on the LCC methodology for buildings. Because you should also know that in Poland, we developed and adopted by means of a ministerial regulation an LCC methodology for buildings. So this document actually was presented the methodology in more clearer and more appealing way for the contracting authorities. We also developed the Polish version of the EU LCC tools. As regards the GPP monitoring, the monitoring is carried out by means of the annual reports on awarded contracts. And these reports, each contracting authority and contracting entity is obliged to submit to the Public Procurement Office by the 1st of March of each year, and it presents the information for the previous calendar year. And in that standard form of the annual report, there is a table number 9, which includes various green aspects that we gather the information on. It contains the reference to environmental management systems and measures within qualitative selection criteria. It contains references to environmental aspects, the contract performance requirements, application of eco-labels, application of environmental aspects in the contract award criteria, and last but not least, the application of the LCC methodology. And now the GPP monitoring in numbers. Well, I would like to emphasize once more that the GPP is applied on in general on a voluntary basis by the contracting authorities and entities. So as regards the information for 2020, so GPP and innovative aspects were included in 1,544 awarded contracts, and their value amounted to 12.3 billion Polish zloty, which is approximately around 3 billion euros. And the share of green or innovative public procurement in the total number of the awarded public contracts by the Polish contracting authorities and entities amounts to 1%, but their share in the total value of the awarded public contracts is 7%. Okay. Well, thank you for your attention. If you have more detailed questions, I will be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for the contribution by Poland. And now our time is a bit running out, so we have to move more quickly. Now it's the turn of Belgium and GBP in Flanders. The speaker is Mr. Jan de Haes, Vice Governor, Province of Antwerp, Belgium. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you. I hope my screen is, you can see my screen?
Yes, yes,
okay.
Perfect.
Okay, I'll be quick. The province of Antwerp was, of course, glad to join the GPP4Growth project because sustainability has been in our DNA since forever, and we have seen sustainable public procurement as one of the key instruments to achieve our objectives since the early 90s. We believe that all money spent should be deployed in the best possible way, not only to acquire the goods and services we need, but at the same time to reach strategic policy goals like resource efficiency, climate change mitigation, circular economy. Determining the strategic objectives that are crucial for the organization and for the motivating the business case for sustainable procurement helps to create support and to make sustainable procurement a success in an organization. Several public authorities in Flanders have strategic resolutions aimed at an effective and efficient use of the instrument of public procurement to contribute to the achievement of their policy objectives. The latest Flemish government agreement, for example, states that the Flemish government will use its purchasing power maximally to stimulate innovation and sustainability, to achieve efficiency gains, and to reward corporate social responsibility. It mentions circular priority rules in the Flemish government's procurement, circular green deals, and eliminating barriers for circular models. Aligning the procurement strategy with the business strategy makes the argument that there is no budget for sustainable purchases obsolete. Sustainable procurement is good, and efficient procurement with more value for the organization and its key stakeholders, doing more with less. More than ever, sustainable and cost efficiency go hand in hand. Sustainable is not more expensive, especially when you take a comprehensive approach. This helps to make the most of your budget with minimal impact on the environment, to purchase more efficiently, use less energy, reduce transportation costs, avoid waste as an organization. GPP is more than just applying ambitious green criteria in tenders for us. First of all, it is also asking yourself, do we need all what we buy today, and how can we handle it more efficiently? For example, our car fleet, we don't have the budget to replace all our cars with new electric vehicles. But is that even necessary? An electric cargo bike actually proved the better option for some tasks. And in 2020, we definitely decided to minimize the central vehicle fleet and to rely more on car sharing through a private shared mobility initiative as a supplement during the peaks. This is not only cheaper, but it guarantees a more effective use of existing vehicles, avoiding underutilization and standstill, even more so in these times of increased teleworking. The budget that is freed up will be used to ecologically upgrade to other cars. This way, we manage the transition toward plug-in cars without requiring additional budget. Another example, in our region, open space is a valuable ecological commodity. This is why we not only apply energy efficient and passive building techniques, but also consider infill or concentration of constructions. We make sure all rooms in buildings can be optimally used for all necessary functions. Another recent example of the holistic approach is our IT management. For IT hardware, we are not only considering including more circularity criteria in tenders, but more importantly, we are reorganizing our operations, centralizing acquisition, distribution, services, maintenance, repairs, and adapt it more to actual user needs. For example, not every employee needs a graphic design program on his PC. This promotes savings, optimal use, and maximal reuse of equipment and materials, with greater result than just greening the tender, since our impact on IT giants is rather limited for now. The longer a green purchase is used, the more sustainable it gets, and to correctly calculate and compare the cost of products, it is necessary to take into account the price we pay today, but also the cost for use, maintenance, repairs, replacement, reuse, disposal, etc., and all the external costs of its lifespan. Looking at the organization as a whole, in the light of sustainability, will make it easier to identify the quick and largest wins. Where can you easily make a big impact? The biggest polluters, the largest purchases, where can results be achieved quickly? The positive vibe of success with the products and services where you can easily make a big impact will create a favorable snowball effect. Inspiring colleagues also in other organizations. All procurers benefit from avoiding double work by not reinventing the wheel, but copying good examples from colleagues in other organizations. The workload is split and scaling up lowers prices. For example, in March 2020, when the Corona crisis reached our region, we issued a tender for reusable washable mouth masks open for the municipalities within the province of Antwerp. This way, supporting the municipalities with green procurement project. It is clear that not every local authority feels it has the staff and resources to implement GPP as the norm and using procurement as a tool for strategic projects. GPP in Flanders has clear frontrunners and alas, fast learning followers, but also has its laggards that go slow. GPP is not mandatory for local authorities in Flanders, and the latest Flemish government agreement stresses the autonomy of local authorities and a focus on supporting and coaching of local authorities. So it won't be in the near future. Therefore, the development of GPP policies at local, that means provincial or municipal level in Belgium has progressed in a rather fragmented way. Not all public authorities are involved. That's definitely not in other than basic GPP. Some local authorities have drawn up internal policies for sustainable public procurement. Many municipalities have been working step by step on specific dossiers. For example, the procurement of only recycled paper, cleaning products, fair trade products. Some mention GPP in their policy goals. The Gpp4Growth action plan put forward some additional necessary actions to support more local authorities on making their purchases more sustainable. The easily accessible initiative aimed at local authorities like the help desk might need reviving after the pandemic. However, from sharing our experiences, it became clear that Flanders has an abundance of good examples of resources, of resource-efficient GPP of the most diverse items, from food or ICT and cars to buildings, etc. I believe that all these sustainable procurement cases demonstrate that it pays to just take the plunge, try new approaches, and learn from the procurement process. Learning by doing is certainly key in GPP. In doing, we set the example. Sharing the knowledge we gained makes it easier for others to get on board. We try out innovative solutions with other local authorities that can apply as well in their own organization. For the very same reason, exchanging experiences and practices with Gpp4Growth partners has been very enriching. We hope, and we learned, we can continue our mutual learning curve and fruitful collaboration with the Gpp4Growth network after the project ends this year, but it will be prolonged, I learned today. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Mr. Jan de Heijs for this very rich and helpful presentation for our project. And now we move to Ireland and GPP in the circular economy in Ireland, given by Mr. Ossian Smith, Minister of State for Public Procurement and Government Communications of the circular and the circular economy. Please, the floor is yours.
I'm delighted to offer my congratulations to Interreg Europe's Gpp4Growth project today. I applaud the great strides all partners have made to boost the use of green public procurement, or GPP, across our European regions. As Minister with responsibility for public procurement in Ireland, I regard GPP as a fundamental tool in meeting the challenge of the climate and biodiversity crises that are facing our world. I'm determined that we use the potential of GPP to move the market and drive a sustainable revolution in our economies. Since 2017, the Gpp4Growth project has been at the centre of our efforts in Ireland to mobilise our procurement community around greening our purchasing decisions. The project provided a focal point for dialogue on green procurement across the public sector. The stakeholder workshops helped to build a community of procurers and others who wanted to bring GPP to life in their work. In Ireland, we prioritised 3 key actions in our Gpp4Growth action plan. Firstly, developing a national procurement circular, then training procurers, and finally updating our green criteria and guidance for procurers. I'm pleased to report that Ireland has delivered all 3 of these actions. In 2019, our Government Procurement Office issued a circular in support of the inclusion of green criteria in all public procurement. This circular also included a pilot monitoring programme for the uptake of GPP across government. Monitoring is a significant challenge universally, so I'm looking forward to seeing the first analysis of this data shortly. On training, we've rolled out a comprehensive GPP training programme for public officials. Places have been heavily oversubscribed, and that demonstrates the appetite and enthusiasm for GPP which exists. Our national guidance document on GPP criteria for public procurers is being comprehensively updated. It'll be available online from next month, and it will be updated on a rolling basis to reflect developments in the field. At national government level, we've recently adopted an environmentally progressive programme for government and a new waste action plan for a circular economy. A new national climate action plan will be published later this summer. GPP actions feature prominently in all these measures. Our ambition is to hardwire the reach and the usage of GPP across our public sector. These measures include a review of national GPP policy, mandatory use of green criteria, and integrating circular economy principles into procurement policy. Our environmental priorities for government include a new proposed climate action legislation which will enshrine into law our path to net zero emissions no later than 2050, as well as setting an interim target of a 51% reduction in emissions by 2030. We're going to halve our food waste this decade. We're going to introduce a deposit and return scheme for plastic bottles and cans. We're going to ban certain single-use plastics, and we're going to introduce new environmental levies, starting with disposable cups. The EU and this government recognise that our recovery from the COVID pandemic must be green and it must be sustainable. GPP has a leading role to play in the green and digital recovery being supported by the EU. Interreg projects provide an invaluable platform for us all to share knowledge and experience that is essential for us to transition to a sustainable future. The Gpp4Growth Interreg Europe project has played a key role in Ireland's journey towards greening public procurement. The generous collaboration amongst project partners has inspired our work here at home. It has also helped us build vibrant networks of people committed to sustainable procurement across our public sector. Thank you all for your hard work and dedication and friendship. I wish that today's event and your future work has every success. Thank you.
Mr. Austin Smith of the Ireland state, and for his very valuable contribution to our meeting. And now we move to the last speaker for this session, and the state represented is Latvia. GPP in Latvia is the name of the title of the presentation, Current State and Targets, and will be given by Mr. Maris Klismets, Head of the Coordination Department of the Ministry of the Environmental Protection and Regional Development.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, it seems okay. Fine. First of all, I will try to share my presentation for you all to see. Okay. Hopefully you will manage to see it. Okay. First of all, greetings from Latvia, and of course we also have done a lot of things for GPP in the last, let's say, 5 years, and then quickly I will go through them, so for you to see what's new happening in Latvia. First of all, of course, all of you know our European Green Bible. It's a European Green Deal, according to what we are all now connected, and then the actions which are included in this European Green Deal is also very much connected with actions of GPP. For example, if you talk about food production or selling, or everything is connected with ecosystems, biodiversity, and so on and so forth. So just for starting to not forget these things. If we look at the GPP implementation in Latvia, we have legislation in place now already for 3.5 years, since 2017. We have, of course, 2 laws: law on public procurement and public service providers procurement law, who stipulates the implementation of GPP, and we have specially devoted Cabinet of Ministers regulations on requirements for GPP and procedures for the application. And on this slide, you see that we have 7 mandatory groups of GPP implementation, like copying and graphic paper, imaging equipment, computers, food and catering services, cleaning products, indoor lighting, and street lighting. And we have also 15 voluntary groups. The most important of them are of course, construction works, road construction, also transport, furniture. Those who are lighted with red fund actually is amended last year in September. We have put new developments from European Commission guidelines. Also in order to promote procurement of more environmentally friendly products and services, also to promote the use of recycled materials. For example, this new group for recreation and sports infrastructure is totally new, and in that case we tried to solve our problem with used tires. We can, so to say, recycle them and put those recycling material in production of recreation and sports infrastructure, like playgrounds and so on and so forth. So also in the construction work sector, we put this issue. We also need to tackle also climate change, reduction of emissions, and also during the first 3 years of implementation of those regulations, we see some problematics, and then so we tried to simplify some legislation, and then also use the practices what we have learned, and then so when we look at the green public procurement, we also always think about the 5 main principles. We think about more environmentally friendly procurement. We are preventing the damage, life cycle thinking, which is actually one of the toughest things to buyer to know, that you need not just to look at the price of the product, but you need to think of life cycle of product, of production, of usage, and then disposal. Also, of course, we look at the environment impact comparison and then information on environment protection measures. When we come to the implementation statistics and then targets of our GPP in Latvia, we see that it's like fluctuating up and down, but last year it stabilized or reached almost 30% of GPPs of total public procurements, which is the very good result, as we have planned to reach the 30% of GPP in this or maybe next year. Of course, it is very much dependent of implementation of EU structural fund programming, mainly in construction sector. And then if we look at the share of GPP groups, then we see that Of those 850 million GPP millions spent for GPP, 61.5% is spent for construction projects. So it's the biggest part. And then the second is the catering services, like 17%, and then smaller part is computers and ICT, 7%, and transport just 4%, and others are less. Of course, there is also an important figure for number of procurements, and this is 15% of all procurements for GPPs, and it's also it's good work done by our procurement specialists. And what would I like to show is also that we are trying to pilot or implement good projects, and then to show to society or other municipalities. So this is the very new one example from one of our municipality libraries just opened.
1 minute still.
Sorry?
1 minute.
Yeah, I will, of course.
Thanks.
Of course. And this opened just this month, and it's a very good project. You see, it's a passive house with low energy consumption, and this is the project we can share also with GPP4Growth project. So no problem. And if we come to the last slide, of course, we think about the next activities. We are annually producing our informative report of GPP implementation to our cabinet of ministers, and we see that this year we need to make more efforts for textile sector to improve GPP in this sector, also construction sector. We are for the 6th year in a row organizing annual methodological workshops for our procurers, making consultations, and also cooperating with different kind of projects like this GPP4Growth project as well, which is a very good example for our procurers how to get more knowledge and piloting the GPP in Latvia. So in short, very short, it was all I want to say, and good luck for this today's workshop, and then thank you for attention.
Thanks a lot to Mr. Glizmets, representative of the Latvia Republic, and so we have completed our first session, and we are 10 minutes late in our schedule. I apologize for being so harsh with you, but we have very strict times to be respected today, and so now we have a virtual coffee, which is not only virtual, is also short, a very short coffee break. So the organizers are asking me to keep it in 5 minutes. So I suggest to stay online, have your coffee, but be back in 5 minutes, I mean 11:50. Okay, so please enjoy your coffee. Okay, we are all back, and welcome again to all our guests. And now we are going to get into the second session of this very intensive morning. And this session is entitled GPP4Growth Project Actions on the Ground. But we have an interesting news, because we'll enjoy, besides our speakers, we will enjoy the assistance of a special actor in our communication strategy, because we are going to use also another communication tool, which is a graphic facilitation. I mean, we have with us Mr. Pierpaolo Borresi, who belongs to the Yobi Scribes organization, which is a company which manages this kind of communication based on the translation of the contents delivered by the speakers into real-time drawings, sketches, cartoons, I mean, images which are going to complete the presentations in this kind of, let's say, translation of key messages into drawings and images. So we thanks, of course, a lot this help given by Mr. Baresi. And so we can start now with the first of our speaker, who is Massimo Di Domenico of the Lombardy Foundation for the Environment, and who will deliver a lecture on the title GPP in the Italian utility sector, some applicative examples. We are a bit late, so I recommend to the speakers to stay within the 10 minutes assigned to each of you. And please, Massimo, go ahead. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Professor Ballarin. Could you see my slides, my presentation? Yes?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So in these sessions, I'd like to talk about, of course, GPP, but with a focus on the Italian utility sector. In particular, I wanted to present you an applicative example in the water sector. So here you have a long list of European legislations and guidelines and regarding GPP that you all know. But very important from my point of view are the Directive 23, 24, and 25 that also affect public utilities. In particular, the Directive 2025 or 2014 is on procurement procedures for utilities in the water, energy, transport, and postal service sector. This represents, I mean, we are talking about today about public administration at national, regional level, also at municipality level. But there is the sector of public utility, which is also very important to be considered when we talk about GPP. In particular, if you read the introductory part of Directive 24 and 25, you have this statement, very important to be considered. So regarding procurement process in the utility sector, you need to seek to ensure greater inclusions of common societal goals for procurement process. And also these goals include environmental protection and so on. So regarding this, let's turn to some information regarding the public services companies in my country. As you know, in my country, the state owned directly or indirectly
We can't hear, Massimo. We lost your voice.
Better now?
Yeah.
Is it better now?
Okay, now it's okay. Okay,
okay.
Go on.
Sorry for that. So I was saying that we are talking about more than 6,000 companies, about 900,000 employees. We are talking about 56 billion euros. So the of added value of the entire sector, where the public, has ownership regarding this sort of enterprises. So at the beginning, Mikos Bagelis was talking about the trillions of euros that the public spend in general. And also, it's very important to consider this sector, the industrial sector, where the state has a certain ownership. Let's focus now very briefly on a specific sector, because I don't have time. My presentation should be short, but let's talk about, for example, the water, and in particular the wastewater infrastructures. Very important are these criteria that the European Union, GPP criteria that the European Union has introduced in 2013. And in this case, very important are the criteria for the wastewater infrastructure that are distinctly different from other GPP criteria. Why? Because often we talk about big and complex infrastructure. Is an area that with different levels of legal requirements, from European level to national to regional to local at local level. So regarding the effluents, so that depends on the locations of the project, and also the project themselves have positive environmental impact of wastewater. So it's an important sector from, let's say, the sustainability point of view, from the environmental point of view, and also for the fact that purchasing goods and services regarding this project is something that support and push on the green purchase in the economy. Here, I just point on some specific criteria, GPP criteria that has been considered. For example, let's have a look to the first key environmental impact. In this case, you see it regards the energy consumption, because energy consumptions affects hardly the costs that companies that treat water has to sustain. In this case, of course, what is the GPP approach? That you need to purchase equipment with high energy efficiency, but if you have already equipment, you must increase the energy efficiency of electricity and heat producing units, and also promote use of renewable energy sources. In this case, on the right side of the slides, you have also different how to apply this criteria in all the single process of the project development phase. So in the tendering consultancies phase, in the initial phase, in the preparatory phase, in detailed design and tenders phase, and so on. I want to just, I've got 4 minutes to finish my presentation. So I wanted I checked, just considering an important water company in my region, that is Gpp Holding, is the water company in the metropolitan area of Milan. So excluding, we are talking about all the metropolitan area, so excluding the city center. This is a public company because it's owned by 194 shareholders that are the municipalities, the local municipalities in the belt of the Milano area. And also, I asked them about their policies regarding the supplier qualifications. And they are very keen on putting this seller, this vendors, into their specific list, and they check the vendors have some requirements with regard to sustainability. So they have some criteria, they choose the vendor and then include the vendor in this list. And they check, you know, every now and then if these criteria are still sustained by the list of vendors. So what we're talking about, I asked them about the Green Public Procurement Standard, and they say that, for example, in 2020, were 120 the tenders that apply GPP criteria, over 206. So we are talking about more than 50% of their tenders have GPP criteria. And this is something very important. I want to add something. In my country, as you probably know, the GPP criteria are, in certain sense, binding in all the tenders, but this doesn't mean that all the tenders include GPP procurement standards. So there is still a lot to do, especially a lot to do also in tenders that regards enterprises as the one I'm presenting now. What they have done they also create an alliance with the other 13 public companies in the Lombardy regions. All companies, of course, treat water, the integrated water systems. So we are talking about 1,200 municipalities, 800 million cubic meters. So what they did together, and I'm finishing, they are doing tenders together, and they put GPP criteria in the tenders. So, for example, they themselves with electricity 100% green. And we are talking about a huge amount of money, because we are talking about a tender of more than 138 million euro for a total of electricity acquired of almost 600 gigawatt hour. So, and this decreased to zero the CO2, and also this has a positive, of course, environmental impact, without an increase in tariff charged to the other users. I'm finishing. I want just to say that the utility sector is very important to be considered. Maybe could be a part of a following of this research. Is an important sector because you have skilled people, you have resources, and is a sector that I think could on eco-innovations, finding good services from an environmental point of view. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Massimo, for your very interesting presentation and for being so tough into keeping the pace. Thanks again. And now the floor is given to Ms. Laura Lentini of the ANCI. ANCI, I'm translating in English, is the National Association of Italian Municipalities. And this, Mr. Lentini represents this Lombardy branch of ANCI Association. And her presentation is titled Synergies between EU projects, and in particular the cooperation, let's say, the synergy between GPP4Growth and Life Green Fest. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Detti. First of all, I would like to say hello to everybody and to thank the Lombardy region and all the partners of the GPP4Growth project for giving us this opportunity to share the results of our project. And I'm speaking, as Mr. Detti said, on behalf of ANCI Lombardia, which is the National Association of Italian Municipalities in the Lombardy region, in this case, and which is the lead partner of our project. I'm going to share the screen now.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you can use the full screen mode.
Yes, I'm trying to.
But otherwise.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Because I'm not managing to have the, wait just a second.
But in any case, it doesn't matter because we can understand and see the words and. Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay. So, so as I said, we are specifically grateful for this opportunity to participate in this event, because we have just come to an end of our LIFE project, which is Green Festivals and Events for Sustainable Tenders. As you know, the LIFE program is the financial instrument of the European Commission to protect, to safeguard the environment. So our project started in October 2017 and is just coming to an end in 2 days. Basically, the last step that we're going to have on Wednesday is the monitoring visit from the external team, monitoring team of the EASME agency of the European Commission. And so this project has focused mainly on a specific field, on a specific sector of green public procurement, which is cultural activities. The partnership is composed mainly by ANCI Lombardia, which is the coordinating beneficiary, and a series of municipalities in the Lombardy region, which is Bergamo, Cremona, Fano, which is in the Marche region, sorry. Then we have also the consortium Villareale and Parco di Monza. We have Time in Jazz Association, which is the association that manages the Jazz Festival of Berchida in Sardinia, which is a famous festival which gathers millions of participants each year, organized in August. Then we have Federculture, which is a federation concerning cultural activities, and Ecosistemi Foundation, which is a technical partner of our project, which focuses on GPP in this project. So basically, to understand what we did, the path that we activated, you have to understand the context where we started from. So basically, the fact is that there are no common European criteria in the cultural field, and there is no green public procurement in Italy in the cultural sector. I will speak just in 2 minutes about the new reform that the new recovery plan in Italy has just started. So the project decided to focus specifically on cultural activities, which is a sector that involves millions of people in Italy, but currently, the current, let's say, product categories of the minimum environmental criteria are 11, and there are, as you can see, there are no cultural activities included. As I told you, now we just having the new recovery plan, which has just been approved by the Draghi government in Italy, and which introduces the reform 3.1, which is the adoption of minimum environmental criteria for cultural events. So the Life Green First project basically matches this new Italian plan, and says that the aim of the reform is to improve the ecological footprint of cultural events, which is exactly what we have been doing in these years. Basically, the general objective of our project was to transfer the existing good practices in Italy of green public procurement to the sector of cultural activities, which have been promoted and organized by public administrations, with the general purpose to improve the implementation of, to improve the implementation of green public procurement policies at national and European level. The specific objectives were to improve the management of GPP policies and procedures, to define minimum environmental criteria in the calls for tenders and the relation of cultural activities, and to exchange knowledge and good practice. So the event we are attending today is specifically in this logic, in this sense of sharing our results. The beneficiaries of our project were direct beneficiary, which were the manager and the organization managing authorities of cultural activities, the national and regional policymaker in the cultural sector, and indirect beneficiary, which are also manager, organization management activities, then citizen, the general public and visitors of all cultural events which are organized each year in Italy, and workers and employees of the cultural event sector. Basically, what we tried to do was to think about what a sustainable event means. So organizing a sustainable event represents a commitment, as all of you already said, which is not only, as you said, a burden, but a cost, but a business opportunity, a real opportunity to reduce the environmental, social, and economic impact of activities. So an event, in this case a cultural event, is sustainable if it is conceived, planned, and implemented to minimize its negative impact on the environment and to leave positive legacies to the community. How do we regulate these activities? So in Italy, we have contributions and regulations and procurement. What we focused on were the phases, the 4 phases, different phases of the life cycle of a cultural event, which start from the organization of an event, the promotion and communication, the practical implementation of the event, and the post-event activities. Our project intervened in festival, cultural reviews, musical events, and exhibitions. So all of this compose a cultural event. The project was structured in 11 actions, starting from the definition of the field of intervention of cultural activities, the consultation and exchange with stakeholders and market operators, the definition of minimum environmental criteria in the cultural sector, the training, so a training path that was applied to municipal administration and officials involved in the cultural sector, the practical publication of codes and green regulations, the evaluation, so the assessment phase of what were the costs and benefits of the events that were organized, so the monitoring of the project input and the measurement of performance indicators, and then obviously communication and general project management activities. Basically, the key actions, the key macro phases, let's say, of the whole process were the development of the practical tools and then the implementation of those tools. So we started from identifying the cultural intervention activities, then to identify the minimum environmental criteria with also the associated costs, the training of the public administrator and official with the objective basically to learn, to teach and learn how to conceive a sustainable event, cultural event, define also the environmental aspects and the macro phases of the activities, and insert, so this minimum environmental criteria that were established during the life course of the project in the tenders and in the regulations that were published by the public administrations involved in the project. And so also guidelines for the implementation of green public procurement in the cultural sector were produced. So these are all the activities that we started from, which also included, as far as the definition of the field of intervention of cultural activities, the drafting of a matrix to identify areas of environmental impact and the evaluation of the life cycle cost of the cultural subsectors. Here we had also the involvement of 194 stakeholders and 46 memorandum of understanding signed, which basically stated the commitment of these stakeholders to apply the minimum environmental criteria to the events that they're going to organize. A phase where we tried to, let's say, enhance the involvement of stakeholders and economic market operators. So with a series of workshops, direct interviews, roundtables, and participation to two sessions, let's say, of the Forum by Green, which is every year organized in Rome, which is the National by Green Forum, which includes all stakeholders and market operators in the field of GPP procurement. So then the definition of this minimum environmental criteria, what were the regulations, the verification method, and the guidelines for the application, for the practical application. So for the practical introduction.
Time is running out.
Okay, I'm going to go very fast. So we distinguish between minimum basic criteria and minimum rewarding criteria to be applied to cultural events. So the training program. Then we had the publications of 18 events by all the partners of the project, which is the list of all the events. The evaluation of the costs and benefits of the green purchases in the field of cultural activities. And we're going to present these results also in the layman's report that we'll be happy to share with you as soon as it's published. Then communication dissemination activities. These are all the dissemination events that we organized. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura Lentini, because you have shown what we should do with projects connected in this way. I mean, we should aim, in my opinion, at a joint capitalization of projects so close and so aimed at the same final goals, so adding values, adding outputs and opportunities, and this could be very useful to be taken into account for the final capitalization of our project. Okay, so now we move to the third speaker, Professor Fabio Iraldo of Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna and Institute of Management. And he will be talking about circular economy and GPP, some evidence from Italian experiences. So please, Fabio, go ahead.
Thank you, Antonio, for the invitation. Nice to see you, although not in presence, but hopefully we will meet again very soon. I will give a very brief presentation, so I will skip many of the slides that I'm going to leave you anyway for the project if you want to read them at a later stage, because there is no need to show you the way in which Italy is kind of pioneering GPP. It has been pioneering GPP in the last years, and the explanation for that, because many of the speakers, they have mentioned the Italian effort on GPP through the National Code of Public Contracts and through the minimum criteria that have been made mandatory for many tenders. So I'm jumping right at the heart of my presentation, which deals with some research activities that we have been carrying out on GPP, and especially on the relationship between GPP and circular economy. Most of these activities are coming from European projects, and especially I would like to mention the Enhance project, because it is an international project that has been funded by the Interreg program. So very, very close to what other speakers have done, actually. What we have done through the years is basically an in-depth analysis and research on how GPP can help the diffusion and spreading of circular economy among public purchasers. And specifically, we have started by carrying out a content analysis a couple of years ago, that has been, by the way, published on an international review on all the regions in Italy, identifying 166 tenders. And going through this standard, we meant to identify what were the criteria dealing with, or that can be traced back to the circular economy, to see what was the level of development of these criteria within these tenders. This is an overview of the different budgets of the different tenders, quite a good representation of different amounts of money, up to over 5 million euros. And this is the representation of the different sizes of the municipalities that were involved throughout Italy in the survey. But basically, we went through the different tenders, through the content of the tender, in order to understand how criteria were dealing with issues that were related with the circular economy. And we found out that there were, back at those times, a few years ago, already some traces of circularity in the tender, especially dealing with beyond energy and water, saving energy and saving water. Especially the great news was dealing with materials. And those criteria were basically dealing with exclusions of certain materials which are dangerous, so they make it more difficult to recycle, for example, or they dealt with, and this is quite interesting, with the content of recycled materials in the products that the public purchases was buying. So recycled material 3-4 years ago started to become one of the most used criteria in GPP dealing with the circular economy. But unfortunately, the amount of tenders in which these criteria were used was quite small. This corresponds more or less to the figures that we have already seen in other presentations this morning. We classified different levels of inclusions of criteria dealing with green related issues and especially with the circular economy. And we found out that both in number of tenders and in economic value, the amount of this tender, the percentage of this tender that were really green, and they included really a wide range of circular criteria, let's call them this way, were very few, 6% in number, 12% in value. So not very diffuse back at those times. More recently, we have carried out another research in an international project, which has been published again in an international review. This time, we were looking for the connection between LCC used in GPP. LCC means life cycle costing. We have already heard about that. Our approach is that if you consider many variables that are linked with costs that you are bearing, that you are sustaining throughout the supply of services or goods to a public administration, you are really taking care also of some circular aspects, because many of the cost of what you are using and you're consuming during the supply of a service or a good, they have to do with the circular economy. And what we found out, quite surprisingly, was that a relatively high percentage of public authorities, they were already considering some costs that were related to what we consider today being the quite advanced frontiers of the circular economy. For example, there is a lot of talk about repairing. Well, you have to know that 59% of the public authorities in Italy, they were already considering the repair cost into the cost into the price, let's say so, that the tender were offering. So if a product need to be repaired, this cost is taken into consideration. But on the other hand, this product was lasting longer. That we have more trivial variables like energy consumption or water consumption that is quite expected. But what is surprising again is that these public authorities were already taking into account of the cost of consumables. That means consumables that are needed to make a certain good work. Like, for example, if you have a copy printer, then you need a paper and you need ink, for example, and that was accounted for, quite surprisingly. But even more surprisingly, 27%, so almost less than one third of the sample, was taking into account the end-of-life cost of the good or services that the public authority was buying. So that's quite good, because the end-of-life cost is one thing that has to do a lot with the circular economy. And the higher is the end-of-life cost, the less circular is your product or service. So this is quite a good surprise, was quite a good surprise for us. Then more recently, we entered as Sant'Anna University, we enter a network that is called Sustainable Purchasing Research Initiative at the international level. We are the only European, basically, university to have entered this network. And within this network, we carried out a survey on different countries. Italy was one of these countries and the only one at the European level to measure the level of development of the GPP, which in Italy, obviously, due to the laws and to the mandatory requirements that I mentioned is quite diffuse. 45% only had no idea of how the GPP was adopted. But what is quite interesting, as Professor Ballarindenti was mentioning in the introduction this morning, GPP is affecting positively the environmental and sustainability performance of the public institution who's adopting the GPP-related strategy. Green purchasing policy in an institution leads to higher and better performance. For example, in that municipality, in those municipalities where a GPP strategy was in place, you have higher, but a lot higher, percentage of recycling and reuse of the waste. Or you had a lot higher percentage of reducing packaging waste. And if you see the lower part of the figure of the graph, you can tell that many other environmental performance indicators show that those municipalities that are adopting GPP are performing better than those that have no green purchasing policy. So this is a report that is publicly available. So if you need more information, you can look at the previous slide and you see the cover of the report. Last but not least, and I'm going to close very quickly, a specific research that we have carried out recently in cooperation with Accredia, which is the national accreditation system, on specifically the relationship between GPP and the circular economy, how GPP is helping the circular economy. And the idea was, well, acting on a twofold dimension. On one hand, what kind of criteria are included in the tenders when we talk about circular economy? So what specific criteria deal with circular economy related aspects? And on the other hand, what kind of certifications can be used in order to be sure that goods or services that are more circular are selected in a tender? Well, we have carried out a thorough analysis of many tenders and to measure how much they adopted actually the minimum criteria for different categories of products and services. I would like just to show you one example which deals with that category that we found is the most advanced in including circular economy related criteria in the tenders, which is furniture. Okay, we carried out an analysis of the different criteria that have been used, and I can tell you that furniture has a very wide range of circular economy related criteria, and they are proving to work pretty well in the tenders in which they are applied. They are mandatory applied, obviously. For example, just to give you an example, there are several criteria dealing with durability, and durability is one of the key points of the new action plan of the European Commission on circular economy. For example, it must be an extended average life that guides the purchase of a furniture, or a minimum warranty should be guaranteed for 5 years, which is quite a lot compared to the ordinary guarantee. But also, they are looking for, the criteria are looking for additional actions in order to guarantee the replacement of the furniture or the easy to repairness, so-called, or maintenance of the furniture itself. But also disassemblability is a key issue that is included in the tender due to the minimum criteria. The furniture should be designed in order to be easily disassembled, to be sent to reuse, recycle, or recovery, which is very good because, all the parts should be easily separated by hand, or you need to have the different parts made of homogeneous material, which makes it more easily recyclable. And just to finish, you also have, let me skip this one, you also have a quite, let's say, traditional criteria for the circular economy, which on the other hand, finds some barriers sometimes to be included in the tenders. And I'm talking about the content of recycled material. Well, for furniture, this is quite a strong point. The average recycled content must be at least 50% in weight, and also the packaging of the furniture must consist of at least 80% by weight of recycled material. So, and we have found that these criteria are quite applied in the tenders, obviously, they're mandatory. So it's obvious this way. I'm going to close this presentation very quickly by saying that the second dimension of the analysis deals with certifications. And we broke down certification according to their object and to their scope. And we classify them, and then we count. The columns are in Italian, I'm so sorry, but they are the different product groups that are covered by the minimum criteria in Italy. And when you see a 1, it means that for that category in the column, a certain certification is used in the set of criteria, which is obviously a very good index, a very good indicator. As you can see, though, the general certification are more used than those certifications that are directly linked with some dimension that has to do with the circular economy. For example, all the certification dealing with the content of recycled material are pretty low in the graph I'm showing you. So pretty low in the ranking. While other things like the Ecolabel or EPDs or IMAS and ISO 14001 are quite high. So the question with which I can leave you is, would it be better to push for a further and stronger inclusion of circular economy related certification in the tender, or would it be better to look for an enlargement of the scope of the traditional certification like Ecolabel, IMAS, ISO 14001 in such a way for them to include quite clearly and quite explicitly circular economy criteria? That is one thing that is under discussion, and I will leave you with the discussion. Obviously, in the project, we are also surveyed other European countries, but the level of development of these criteria is not as strong as we found in Italy. Thank you very much. I hope I've been within the time limits. Thank you, Antonio.
Thank you very much, Fabio. Professor Geraldo provided us with let's say, a true cornerstone for the building of our project. And I'm especially grateful because he has shown many different reasons why the circular economy should be considered the correct perspective of any GPP strategy. And it's been also interesting to look at the LCC approach for the GPP implementation. And we are very grateful, Fabio. Thanks a lot. Now, we have finished with these 3 very valuable presentations, and I suppose we should take a look to our digital or graphical facilitator. I don't know if he is ready to show his product. Okay, yeah. Show us the full screen. Is it possible? I mean, I ask the direction, the control room. Okay. I see only in one of the small squares. Okay, great. Now we can see it entirely. Okay, actions on the ground, Gpp4Growth. You can see a lot of keywords and key messages taken out of your presentations now inserted in this drawing, and so it's very interesting and let's say concise, summary of what we have been talking about in the last 3 presentations. We should keep this with us and use as a communication tool, short of visual abstract of what you have been presenting today, and particularly in the last session. Okay, that's very interesting. We should keep it with us and take it back home in our organizations and use it also for communication purposes, because communication is very, very relevant for this kind of project also in among stakeholders, communicators, media, mass media, and also schools, educators, and so on. Okay, thanks a lot to our digital facilitator. Now we can move to, we are a bit late, but we'll try to recover a few minutes. Now we move to the session, so the communication entitled Professionalizing GPP and Increasing Public Sector's Know-how and Skills. Will be given this lecture by Mr. Artur Spentura, Zemgel Planning Regions Project Manager. Please.
Thank you, Antonio. Good day, everybody, again. It's a pleasure to do a presentation for you. So let me share my screen. So probably you are seeing everything now. So let's move on. Taking into consideration that we're a bit late, I would be as fast as possible, giving you my idea of the professionalizing the GPP in the European Union. So this is the introduction to my presentation. Probably all of you already heard this data and this formulation a lot of times. So the idea is that the public expenditure is a very vital important to the economy, as well the impact of the public expenditure all over the world, not only in Europe, can make a very, very big impact on the environment. So let's talk about not the all, but few of the important thesis why green public procurement is important. First of all, the most important thesis is that green public procurement allows public authorities to achieve environment targets. This is what we're here in the GPP project is about. We're trying to make the public expenditure to give a very positive impact on the environment. Another also important factors is like green procurement raises awareness of environmental issues, improves quality of life, helps establish high environmental performance standards for products and services, saves money and resources, provides incentives to industry to innovate, because the green procurement, especially the green procurement, is very innovative sphere of the procurements, because it started to enter the public sphere not so many years ago. Probably it was the end of the 20th century. So GPP provides is an effective way to demonstrate the public sector's commitment to environmental protection. It means that buying green, public authorities and public representatives showing to the wider public that they care about the environment, about its sustainability and the related things. So let's move on. What are the main barriers that doesn't allow green public procurement to become a very, very occasional event in the public sphere? So it is lack of the political support, lack of practical tools and information, lack of training, lack of cooperation between authorities, and in my opinion, the most important is the lack of GPP professionals with know-how and skills. Because I said it before, and you already know that the green public procurement is a quite innovative sphere of the procurements, and the professionals dealing with the green procurements, they should be skilled and aware heard about the green innovation, about the green criteria, about the environmental impacts of different products and services. That makes the green procurement hard to achieve in a very, very big amounts that we are wanting to see. So what are happening right now in the European Union? What is being done to support the green procurements in the European Union? As you really already understand, a lot of things are happening, and green procurements currently in Europe having a very massive and big support from the European Commission. We know that the European Commission provides to all the members the green criteria, good practices of green procurement, telling what are the impacts on the environment. There is GPP advisory group, which is an expert group composed of representatives of the EU member states and the following stakeholders: Business Europe, Small and Medium Enterprises Association, European Consumer Organization, and many different field experts are helping with advices and the recommendations to the member states. Another very big support for the green procurements all over Europe is the national action plans. There is already a vast majority of the member states that are applying and implementing their national action plans related to the green procurements, just like Latvia. GPP project and toolkits, the project just like GPP4Growth is the exact support for the green procurements in the European states, especially in the European regions representing our consortium. Publication, handbooks, guides, and all the informational stuff, educational events like seminars, webinars, workshops, info days, etc., and of course studies and research. So there is another interesting idea that I want to deliver to you, is that Europe's public authorities are major consumers. By using their purchasing power to choose environmentally friendly goods, services, and works, they can make an important contribution to sustainable consumption and production, what we call green public procurement or green purchasing. This is a very vital and important idea to understand why the green public procurement is so important and why so much resources, so much efforts are being to support the green purchase in the public sector. So, and just finalizing my presentation and telling why the know-how and professionals in the field of the green procurement is very important. Now, I already explained that previously, and now let's talk about the very positive, in my opinion, very positive impact of our project to the green procurements. Of course, it's increased capacity of regional administration to effectively implement resources efficiency policies, improve implementation of national regional policies, improve regional actors' readiness, and create knowledge awareness of the influence of green public procurement on the adoption of sustainable consumption, production patterns, and business operating in the region. Another important thing that I can add to the text of the slide is that actually green procurement also stimulates the private sector to do innovation, to provide innovation, to implement innovation, to provide these green innovative solutions to their services and products. And the most important about the professionalizing and making know-how of green procurements in the public sector and our project, our significant impact to the green procurements is that actually the GPP4Growth increased capacity of almost 200 staff of public administrations to effectively implement resource efficiency policies applying green public procurement. There could be a little remark about these 200 staff because there was already, during our political conference, there was already announced a different count of the staff that is actually mentioned here. It's not 200, it's about 130, 140 staff of public administration, because there was already official countings of the participated staff of the public administrations in the GPP4Growth project. But nevertheless, it's a very huge indicative result, which is very good. Talking about the professionalizing the know-how skills of the green procurements and buying green, what is about our project, and one of the most important activities that were implemented during the project implementation, it is the meetings with the key stakeholders. The meeting with the key stakeholders allowed all the consortium to invite the field experts and professionals and teach them and giving them as much practical and theoretical information about buying green and making them professional in the field of the green procurement. So as you can see, during the whole project, about 1,200 attendees attended this our stakeholders group meetings, where a lot of very important practical theoretical information were introduced about the green procurements. Of course, it's not the different people. It's in the most cases it might be the same people, but nevertheless, more than 1,000 attendees received a very huge and massive blocks of information on the green procurements, what's happening in the industry, and all the related stuff. And here is also very interesting data, which is reflecting the attendees' satisfaction with the meetings, with the provided information, and what happened there. And we see that the vast majority is satisfied. The 63% are satisfied. 34% are very satisfied with the provided information, and only 3% told that it is acceptable. In my opinion, it is tremendous. It is superior result, reflecting that actually GPP did a lot of effort to make the attendees and the stakeholders of the whole consortium in the European regions to get very good and satisfactory information, skills, know-how on the implementing green procurements, which in my opinion is a very big success for the project and the consortium of the GPP4Growth project. So, and the last, for instance, I was telling about that a very big support for the green procurements in all European region are national plans. Of course, Maris Klismans, our stakeholder from the Ministry of Environment, already told you the data, but just to let you know, Latvia started adoption of its action plan regarding GPP in 2015. Since then, you can see that the GPP implementation share raised from 6% in 2016 to 15% in 2020. It means that supporting professionals, supporting procurers with the right information, with the right skills and know-how dramatically increases.
Just 1 minute, please. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry for that. I'm already in my presentation. So you see the dramatic and very, very positive impact of the implementation of action plan in member states can bring a great results. So that's it. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arturs, because you have given a two interesting contribution with your presentation. The first of all is having talked about the critical factors and the barriers which hinder an effective GPP development in our administration. And secondly, I'll stress what you said about the relevance of the capacity building for public administrations at different institutional levels to this purpose. And so these are two critical points to be strictly considered in the future, in the last phase of our project. Now, I remember, you remember I've mentioned at the beginning of this meeting the inclusion of this project into the Green Deal, the European Green Deal. Now, we have with us a representative of the DG Environment of the European Commission, and Mr. Enrico De Giorgis, who will be talking about GPP policy developments in the framework exactly of the Green Deal. So please, Mr. De Giorgis.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for inviting me today and to have the opportunity to present the latest development of what is going on at EU level in the area of GPP. I'm trying now to share my screen. I hope you can see it.
Not yet, but it's coming probably.
Okay. I'll start and let's see if it's coming. On my side, it should be okay. Okay, I see that it's still black.
Okay, okay.
Good.
It's coming.
Okay. Okay. Just takes.
Maybe if you can make it full at the full screen.
Yeah, it's done. It will take a second.
Okay, perfect. Okay, you can go ahead.
Okay, now I just have to find out how to move. I probably have to, sorry, give me 1 second.
It moves. Okay.
Very good. Okay, so I work for the European Commission in DG Environment, in the unit in charge of circular economy, sustainable products, production and consumption. And I'm the coordinator for the activities related to green public procurement. What I would like to present very briefly today to you is a bit an overview of how GPP feature in the context of the European Green Deal, the latest developments, in particular on possible mandatory measures in sectorial legislation, and then to remind what are the European Commission GPP support tools that already exist since some time. Probably most of you already know them. Just a reminder, one of the priorities of the European Commission for the period 2019-2024 is a European Green Deal. Part of the European Green Deal, a small part of the big picture of the European Green Deal, also relates to public procurement. So in the communication adopted by the European Commission in the end of 2019, it is envisaged that public authorities, including the EU institution, should lead by example and ensure that their procurement is green. And the Commission will propose further legislation and guidance on green public purchasing. After this, the Commission adopted in March 2020 the 2020 Circular Economy Action Plan, where GPP also is featured. And in particular, the Commission specified that the aim is to propose minimum mandatory green public procurement criteria and targets in sectoral legislation. So the information important to retain here is, okay, we would like to move from a basically voluntary approach as it has been in the last 15 years to strengthen it a bit, the part related to mandatory measures. And this will not be done through a revision of the public procurement directives, but it will be done through an approach through sectoral legislation. Beside this, the Commission will continue to support capacity building with guidance, training, similar to what was already done in the past. In the Circular Economy Action Plan in 2020, some of the main objectives and initiatives are here mentioned. So the design for sustainable products through is going to be carried out through a revision of the Eco-Design Directive to go beyond energy-related products. Our colleagues are currently working on this initiative. This is quite a big thing. And there might be some space also for mandatory measures. This is currently ongoing. There is an impact assessment ongoing, and it will be analyzed also the part related to public procurement. Empowering consumers and public buyers, several other initiatives that might be of interest in this area. So a revision of the consumer law, the establishment of a new right to repair initiative, and a legislative proposal to ensure companies substantiate their green claims using product and organization environmental footprint methods. These are all ongoing measures. The Sustainable Product Policy Framework identifies several key product value chain. So one is electronics and ICT, batteries and vehicles, another is packaging, one is plastics, textiles, and construction and buildings. Going to batteries, for instance, here we have the first example of what could be the definition of mandatory measures related to GPP in sectoral legislation, because in December 2020, the Commission published and adopted a proposal for a regulation on batteries, which deals with the old world of batteries with the objective to minimize the environmental impacts and ensure sustainability. And there is an article in the draft regulation which relates to public procurement. It's Article 70 on the proposed of the which concerns mandatory green public procurement criteria. So this is a first example for the ones who might be interested to understand a bit better how it might look, the definition of mandatory measures. The same is currently ongoing in the revision of the Packaging and Packaging Waste Directive. So again, it will be a revision of the whole legislation, and also there, it is currently ongoing the assessment whether it will make sense, it might be appropriate to set also specific measures for public procurement. Another example is the Energy Efficiency Directive, which has been evaluated and reviewed, which already contained in the version published in 2012 some obligations for public authorities. The purpose, the idea now is to strengthen this part, setting even stricter obligation with a plan for having, okay, it was, the timeline was planned for the second quarter 2021. It will probably take a bit longer. Now I move to the part related to the food sector, which comes basically from the Farm to Fork strategy adopted by the Commission in May 2020. And one of the flagship under this communication is the proposal for a legislative framework for sustainable food systems. And again, in this initiative, it will be analyzed whether setting mandatory green public procurement measures. One of the actions of the Farm to Fork strategy is indeed how to determine the best modalities for setting those minimum mandatory criteria for sustainable food procurement. So in this case, it's not only about green requirements, but also social and sustainability more in general. The Farm to Fork strategy, as I said, includes this proposal for a legislative framework for sustainable food systems. Preparatory work is ongoing. It is foreseen an inception impact assessment planned for the third quarter of 2021 this year. And there will be consultations with stakeholders. So if you're interested to follow, I think the best way would be for you to register under the portal done for this purpose by the Commission. And you can look for Have Your Say in Google, Have Your Say portal, and then initiatives that are of your interest. Some preparatory work led by Joint Research Center is planned to start by this year. So the starting point will be the current voluntary green public procurement criteria, to which nutritional and health requirements will be added, and social criteria. Okay, now this was a bit the overview of the different initiatives that might have an interest to set mandatory requirements. And now I move to the part of an overview of the voluntary measures and the support measures that are continuing. One is this initiative called the public buyers for climate and environment, which the objective is to promote the collaboration between big public buyers in implementing strategic public procurement for sustainable solutions. The project has started, and it's possible. 4 main working groups have been identified. So one is electric heavy-duty vehicles and waste collection. One is zero emissions construction sites, circular construction, roads, infrastructure, and public space is the third one. And here all the links in the presentation. So when the presentation will be available to you, you can access to this. And it's possible for also other stakeholders to follow the work as observers. Okay, and just to finish, these are the different support tools made available by the European Commission. So a website, which is quite rich. I think some presenters before me mentioned some of the content from there. So I'm happy to see that it is used. Through which full sets of EU GPP criteria and background reports are available in all EU languages. A Buying Green handbook explaining how to include environmental requirements in public procurement under the current legislative framework, GPP training toolkit, several other tools. I the possibility to use the GPP help desk, of which I've included here the email address. If you have any question, if you want to enter in contact, to get in contact with us, if you want to share good examples that you have developed, please don't hesitate to write to us, and don't hesitate to sign up to the GPP news alert, through which the Commission tries to share information and keep updated the subscriber on what is going on the Commission side. This is the list of the GPP criteria and feedback, of course, from projects like your project, the GPP4Growth. It will be very interesting for us to have a feedback on how EU GPP criteria work in practice. So please don't hesitate also on this to come back to us and say, okay, this is good, this might be maybe improved. And this is the remaining part of the criteria currently available. And of course, the revision and the development of EU GPP criteria is open to all stakeholders. And we have recently started the revision of the EU GPP criteria for buildings. So for the ones who are expert or particularly interested to follow this area, please write to this JRC email address and register as an interested stakeholders. We will hopefully publish soon the revised EU GPP criteria for road transport. So that's it from my side, and I'm happy to receive any questions in case anything was unclear or if you want to know more. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Mr. De Giorgis, because you have provided us with a very rich and complete review of what the European Commission is doing for the GPP development in the frame of more general economic and environmental policies by the European Union. Okay, now we are have come at the very last section of this meeting, the conclusions. We have 2 final speeches, one by Mr. Vasileios Kokinos from the lead partner team, and he comes from the University of Patras and is a team manager of our GPP4Growth project. Please, Vasileios.
Thank you, Antonio. Unfortunately, we did not implement this event in person. If I remember correctly, the last time we met in person as a project was in Malta at the end of 2019. And since then, all project meetings and events took place online. Even in this way, I believe that the meeting today was very fruitful and interesting for all the participants. If I can briefly summarize all the presentations and speeches that took place today in 2 sentences. First of all, it is clear that all regions that participate in the GPP4Growth project have made significant steps to include green criteria in public procurements. It is also the second, let's say, point is that all public authorities spend a big percentage of EU GDP, and as Mr. Cataneo mentioned in his welcome address, the public sector is the biggest consumer. And this is a fact not only for Italy, but I guess for all EU countries. Therefore, public authorities have the purchasing power not only to improve the environmental performance of their consumption activities, but they also have, equally importantly, they can influence the market supply side for greener goods, services and works. In this way, with green public procurement, the public authorities can respond to current and, of course, future environmental and economical challenges. And this is something that we tried to do in the previous 4.5 years of the GPP4Growth project, where we attempted, and in my opinion, we succeeded to improve the policy instruments in our regions through the implemented action plans. Despite the GPP dynamic and potential, the COVID outbreak has led EU policy to ease some green rules on public procurements. The health risks that arise through the outbreak and border closures due to the pandemic generated a need to procure goods and services in ways that they do not often adhere to the GPP criteria. Such examples for this are the fast process of procuring products like single-use plastics and so on. In light of this relaxation, the GPP4Growth applied at the Inter-Europe 5th call for an additional 1 year of activities in order to further exchange experience on the way that crisis impacts GPP and on possible measures to face and recover from the crisis. We are happy that our proposal was approved, as Mr. Martinez kindly informed us today, so that we continue our efforts on this challenging topic. During this 1 year additional year, we will be in touch, of course, with all the interested parties and keep them informed of our activities. At this point, and not to spend a lot of time on this speech, as the lead partner of the GPP4Growth project, I would like to thank all of you for your participation, to thank our partners and presenters for their contribution. Of course, I would like to thank you, Antonio, for successfully chairing this event, and a special thank to our Italian partners from the Lombardy region for organizing this event. Thank you all.
Thank you, Vasilios, for your kind words. And so we are at the very end of the meeting, and we, as you know, we've been hosted by Lombardy region, and so now the floor is given to our main host, Mr. Pier Attilio Superti, Deputy Secretary General of the Lombardy region.
Oh. Hi, hello everybody. So evidently I'm here on behalf of Mr. Superti, who unfortunately cannot be here in this very specific moment, but well, anyway, he asked me to give you your final greetings and many thanks to all of you, to all the partners who participated with their political and institutional representatives. So we understood very rapidly, we understood that the GPP success and positive development depends on is the result, let's say, of many aspects and a series of elements. But we believe that the political level, the political engagement is a very, very important element and pieces of this whole project. That's why this is the main aim of this event, this initiative, to strengthen and to underline that the political engagement and involvement is a very, very important part of the whole process. So again, many thanks for your participation. We just wanted to launch this further initiative to all of you. It is a proposal that we will develop during the following weeks and the following months. We would like to propose you a kind of political statement, a position paper to propose you to your political references in order to leave a kind of tangible result and a tangible document of this political involvement. So we will circulate in the following weeks a draft of this position paper, very, very simple and synthetic, but very clear, that will underline and stress the importance, as I told, of a political affirmation on the green public procurement. So this is a kind of feedback and a result of the discussion we had this morning. So thank you again. Thank you to all of you on behalf of Regione Lombardia, the presidency. I also thank the people from Regione Lombardia who worked, FLA, of course, and Stefania, Viviana, and to all of you. Thank you very much, and so let's keep in touch, and very soon you will receive a kind of a draft to be shared with you. Thank you again. Bye.
Okay, thank to you, Monica, for your kind and very effective hospitality by the Lombardy region offices. And we've been working very hard. I apologize again for being maybe too impolite in pressing you and keeping you in times. But in any case, we have good work. I think the morning has been very tough, but very fruitful, and will be valuable for the final developments and capitalization of this project. I remind you that we will be collecting all the presentations given today, and you will have them available on the website of the project, and I suppose also on the website of Lombardy region. And so I thank you again, all of you, speakers, attendants, and we see you on the next occasion. We are in the last month of the second phase of this project, so we are looking at the final conference, and we meet all together in that occasion, or maybe even before. So have a good day. Enjoy your lunch now, I suppose, and see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you all for this event.